Okay, we're here getting ready to start the show. For the YouTube folks, we're just about to start. Hit the intro here in just a second, and we will get started with roundtable number 43.
That was me.
Peter's phone.
I remember to put it on silent. I just always forget to turn off the audio for when I have it on YouTube when I have the chat up.
Yeah. But change one other thing here, because I think once we played the intro, we may have even got some echo anyway, because I needed to change the thing that does our recording for the normal podcast. Get that changed over what it is. All right, let's go ahead and hit the intro, and we'll get started on the show.
No, it's 1 minute early. We gotta wait. Wait.
The Dark Tower by Stephen King. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. Go then. There are other worlds than these. Death, but not for you, gunslinger. It's time we had our own Palaver, I think, and it's going to take a while.
And yet, dauntless, the slug horn to my lips I set, and blew. Child Roland, to the Dark Tower, came.
We are quartet, one from many. The Palaver begin.
Hello and welcome to Dark Tower Palaver. This is our podcast covering Stephen King's magnum opus, Dark Tower series. My name is Tad.
And I'm Peter.
And we're here for roundtable number 43.
Starting to churn these out a little bit faster than we're used to.
Yeah, we since because of the movie, we've I guess that is an explanation for people that maybe don't follow us on social media. We basically, because of the overflow of emails and just with the movie, everything going crazy, we figured that we would do one more on an off week. So you'll hear from us here, and you'll hear from us again next week back on our normal time, and then from there we'll get back into our normal rotation of every other week. If you're new to the show, that's our general schedule. It's been a little bit nutso because of the movie, but that's kind of our normal, is every other week type thing. So we'll be back to that starting next week. We'll be back, and then
the weekend of the 26th and 27th.
Yeah, and that's back to our normal schedule. So from there, you'll see us again in 2 weeks from there. So let's go ahead and jump on into the normal opening. First off, I want to warn you guys about spoilers. If you guys haven't finished the 7 primary books of the Dark Tower series, we may spoil freely from those during the course of our conversation.
As well as the movie.
Yeah, as well as the movie. If you have not seen the movie and are listening, we will also spoil freely of the movie. And since this is a discussion mostly surrounding the movie and the reactions to the movie, you better believe that will be spoiled pretty thoroughly. Next up, if you want to find us, you can find us on iTunes. You can also stream us on Stitcher, and you can pretty much find us on any podcast service that's out there. Any app that basically distributes podcasts, you should be able to find us on. If you do move over to some sort of new service and you don't find us there, let us know, and we will get added to those services. Also, if you could be so kind as to rate and review us on iTunes, that would help us a lot. Also, our show notes are over at darktowerpalaver.com, and for our show notes, I suppose, what you'll generally find is the links to the articles that I reference, as well as any visuals that I'm showing Peter. If you're watching the YouTube stream, you're seeing the stuff on screen as Peter is. But if you're listening to the normal podcast, you want to know what we're talking about, go to the show notes at darktowerpalaver.com, and you can see that. Also, this is an extended quartet. Peter and myself and everyone here that's listening, you guys are all part of this quartet. And as such, we want the Palaver to include all you guys. So, Peter, what's the best way for the quartet to chime in?
Best way to reach us is through email. It's darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. We also have a Facebook page. It's facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. You can also follow us on the Twitter. It's @darktowerpod. That's @darktowerpod. And then as Tad just referenced, if you want to follow along with the visuals as they come up on screen, it's youtube.com/darktowerpalaver.
Yeah, and with the YouTube as well, even if you don't join us for our live streams, if you would rather consume our podcast that way, our YouTube channel will have the videos posted on there to where you can watch old episodes as well. We've only been doing that more recent, maybe the last 5 or so episodes. So that's what you can find there. And all the older episodes you can always find on our podcast stream and the show notes type stuff for visuals. But yeah, that's a more new thing, but we're going to continue doing it because I think it's been working out really well. Okay, so I only have a few small things for news because this is honestly more of just like to try to catch up on some of the emails to kind of get through everyone's opinions and remarks on the movie, and I can't wait to hear what everyone thinks.
Yeah.
And we also have I think the rest of Europe is either getting it this weekend or next weekend, so we're probably going to see a little bit more reaction to the film as it goes, but next week probably plan on a little bit more emails when it comes to new or more news and stuff versus just the emails. But for this episode, there's just a few things I wanted to cover. The first one, of course, is, as I promised you guys, we would be coming back to this, and that is Sequel Watch and looking at some box office numbers. So this is updated from Box Office Mojo as of the 16th, which is a few days prior to our recording. We're recording here on the 18th, and the 16th is when these numbers were updated to, so that doesn't count yesterday, doesn't count today, and it doesn't count this upcoming weekend. I do know that personally, I am going to see it again tomorrow with a friend of ours that has not seen the film. And tomorrow is obviously the 19th. And I know there's a bunch of people that I've seen on our Twitter that are waiting till the 19th to go see it, including some people overseas that is just opening for them, and they actually are holding off to go see it on the 19th. So we'll see what tomorrow brings for box office. But for up till a few days ago, the domestic box office is sitting at $37.2 million. And naturally, the foreign box office is at $19.1 million.
So both times that we recorded the last 2 weeks, we've had some. Last week it was domestic was at 19.
Yeah, the opening weekend.
Oh, the opening weekend was at 19.
Yeah,
and then this week, international's at 19.
International's at 19. Yep. So that gives us a total of $56.3 million. So just about $4 million shy of breaking even. So it'll be interesting to see what we get over the next couple weeks when it comes to once all the international releases are done and stuff. It sounds like this movie will at least break even and won't be a loss, let alone a catastrophic loss, as many movies generally are anymore. It
Gods
like
of Egypt.
The other thing I was kind of like reflecting on recently is like basically this summer and this year, honestly, has been like one of the worst years for movie finances in the last 25 years. Like this has just been like, I don't know. This is just like
when you explain a little bit what you mean by finance, because I'm confused by that. Is that how much money is getting put into movies, or how much money movies are pulling in?
Yeah, there's very few people going to see movies.
Yeah, I saw.
So even things like Pirates of the Caribbean is one that has generally been a very safe bet. Same with Transformers. Both of those movies heavily underperformed for their general audience.
Franchises.
Yeah, for their franchises. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that they bombed per se, and I'm sure they did plenty internationally, and I'm sure both of those opened in China, for instance. I also found out recently as well that China only allows like 14 American movies a year.
Oh, really?
So there's actually a cap.
Oh.
So that's why it becomes so difficult, and why these films maybe even cater to getting into China, because you're basically fighting for 14 spots. It's like a reality show.
Well, also you have to fight with we have a Star Wars coming out every year that's always going to open in China.
Yeah.
You got the Transformers movie coming out every year that's going to open in China.
Yeah.
We had a Pirates movie this year. Okay, so there's 3 spots gone. So there's only 11 spots now. Because we talked about that, was it last week or the week before? We talked about that there had been no announcement of Dark Tower being released in China.
I don't think it will be. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that because I saw that and it was like, it kind of made me laugh because we were talking about, I wonder if Dark Tower would open in China. And yeah, it doesn't look like it will, because like I said, China's pretty restrictive on how many movies get in. And I just don't know that Sony would have jumped through the hoops to get this open in China, because they probably figured, maybe getting something like Spider-Man in there would be more important than Dark Tower. So,
and if I find out that the Emoji movie is in China, I'm gonna.
Oh, the grudge lives on. The grudge lives on with
the
Peter.
hatred.
But yeah, no. So it's just interesting to as I was reading something, because it was funny. There was like something like 6 years ago where Steven Spielberg and George Lucas were at USC Film School, and they were doing like this talk. And during the course of that, both of them basically predicted that soon the entire structure the way movies are being done now with blockbusters and how the blockbusters would collapse in on itself. And everyone just laughed. Oh, yeah. Like you two were just kind of like these bitter old men and stuff. And now it's kind of funny because that's interviews being brought back now because it actually looks like it's happening to where, like I said, like this is the lowest for box office for an entire year that we've had in like 25 years. And
the other thing I saw is I didn't go into the article because that was back when I was kind of keeping my head in the sand, but it was the opening weekend. There was an article that Dark Tower's opening weekend, that first weekend in August, was the lowest weekend of the year.
Yeah.
Money-wise. Money coming in for people going to see movies, that was the lowest one of the year.
You know, and take this what you will, but I actually remember an article similar to that, and there was also an interesting thing that they pointed out, is there was 3 movies that opened that weekend. Dark Tower, Detroit, and there was the Halle Berry movie. Kidnap is the name. Okay, I didn't even know the name of it. Okay, either way, the thing I read, you know, you could take from it what you will. I'm not even going to attach the fact that it was the lowest weekend of the year, but it was kind of funny because it's the first time in history that Hollywood has opened with 3 movies that were all starred by
African Americans.
Yeah, black people or minorities.
Minorities,
because
Halle's not. I don't even know what.
I think it was minorities.
Minorities,
is how it was framed for me, like for the article that I read, and that just made me kind of like think, like, you know what I mean, like because everyone's like I remember like the reaction to like Oscar Isaac being cast, or no, John Boyega being cast in Star Wars, and like it was just this weird thing. And it's one of those things that where, like, we've talked many times about how Hollywood's just like a bunch of bean counters, and you know they're just like, it's all about like they think it's a science, and I'm just wondering if it's, you know, if in their minds this kind of thing would prove that like minority characters and leads to lower box office. I mean, I don't.
That would be I see where you're thinking where they would buy that.
But put those together.
They're going to look at the numbers. Is what you're saying, is that they're bean counters. So the only thing they're going to look at is this weekend was the worst weekend of the year. We had 3 minority movies opening up.
Yeah.
Well, let's not do that anymore.
And then making like ridiculous like things there.
Ridiculous judgments and decisions based off of that data.
Yeah.
But it's stupid.
Yeah, it is. But then shifting away from that topic and just about the year in general, because I remember, for instance, Tom Hanks had one of his biggest bombs in history this year. There's been some Tom Cruise, the same thing. Yeah. Like there's been some big actors that are generally speaking ones that these bean counters find as like safe bets. Yeah,
this guy's gonna pull in the budget, no problem.
Yeah, they've crashed. But also Johnny Depp, same thing. I mean, there's been some big names that are like always those ones that you don't have to worry about, generally speaking. And this year it hasn't made a difference. So it's one of those things that like I hope that like people take into consideration as they consider like a sequel for Dark Tower is, you know, maybe it didn't do what everyone hoped it would do, but at the same time, nothing hardly this year.
Yeah, it doesn't seem. What we need to take away from this is it's not Dark Tower's underperforming; it's everything's underperforming.
Yeah, a lot of things are underperforming. I mean, beyond like your huge things, like, and that's the thing that's funny is where people complain about, oh, well, Hollywood's just all about sequels and like, you know, remakes and everything else. It's like at the same time though, if those are the only things making money, like that's all people are going to see.
That's the point.
You know, if everyone wants to just go see Star Wars and Marvel movies, then guess what? You're going to see more Star Wars and Marvel movies coming out, because if people don't go to other things, they're going to stop making those other things.
Well, especially if you have companies like Sony and I don't know, Disney, who's doing Pirates, and I don't know who does Transformers. Do you remember what studio it is? Is it Universal? It's Universal, isn't it?
Might be.
You know, if these studios are looking at, you know, what Marvel's doing and what Star Wars is doing, I mean, those are both Disney products. You know, Disney's trying to get as much as they can off of as many, you know, different franchises as they can, which is why they came out with another Pirates. Yeah. They're seeing, hey, this is the successful ones over here. We need to replicate that. Yeah. And that's, I mean, we've even had people chime in on this podcast about it. Is like Sony's trying to build its tentpole using the Dark Tower. And that's the problem, is that everyone's, you know, well, I just want to see. They say they don't want to see sequels and remakes and reboots and stuff like that. But like you said,
money talks.
But like you said, if we're going to look at it with the bean counters, okay, well, what's the top 3 grossing movies this year? Off the top of your head, did you look?
Yeah, I've seen some headlines just because I follow this kind of stuff. Wonder Woman's, I think, number 1 right now, currently. I believe Spider-Man is right near there, right pretty close to the top. And beyond that, I don't know. But I do know that I saw something that said that Wonder Woman is the number 1.
So, internet, including worldwide, number 1 right now is Beauty and the Beast. a remake. Okay. Number 2 is The Fate of the Furious, a sequel. Number 3 is Despicable Me 3, a sequel. So I mean, like, and then if you go down to get to Wonder Woman is at 5. But if you look at
that, must be counting it different than the thing I saw. Maybe my thing I saw was just domestic.
Domestically, Beauty and the Beast made $504 million. Wonder Woman made $402.8. So, you know, it goes along the lines of what we're talking about, is if we're going to look at that list as just strictly bean counters, looking at that, okay, well, what's making the money?
And that's why Disney's making every feasible one of their cartoons into a live-action movie. But, so I just hope that, like, long-term that at least gets equated into the equation when, like, we're looking at a Dark Tower sequel or a, Netflix or whoever pulling the trigger on a TV series is look at the fact that nobody's going to movies right now. And, this is a lower budget movie, and hopefully they can take all that into consideration. And
well, one thing also to look at is, like, if we're going to look at it as a first movie, one unfair judgment that I've seen, I don't know if you've ran across this, is I saw a comparison between Spider-Man and Dark Tower. It's like, well, wait a minute, Spider-Man's
probably because they're both Sony.
Yeah, they're both Sony, but I also saw, like, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 compared to Dark Tower. It's like, if you're going to build a franchise, this isn't the way to do it. It's like what the article was saying. But I go back and I say, well, yeah.
But neither of those built their own franchise.
Yeah, neither one of those are.
Both of those stood on the shoulders of giants that already made billions of dollars.
Right, and that was my point. Is like, well, that's not fair to compare the Dark Tower to that. Let's go compare the Dark Tower to the Incredible Hulk or Iron Man in the first 2 movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and see how those did opening weekend and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's my point. Is like I hope that the bean counters can look past this for the Dark Tower, and especially this year and everything, because I want a sequel.
Yeah,
that's the big thing, is I want one.
Yeah.
So I'm selfish that way.
Yeah, for sure. And next up, kind of in the same rank, is where does Dark Tower rank for all-time King films? We can update this as well. We talked about this last week. So domestically, with $37.2 million, Dark Tower is now the 9th ranked King film of all time.
Yeah.
And if you include worldwide, which is both domestic and international, domestic and international, combine those two for the 56.3 that the Dark Tower is currently sitting at, the Dark Tower currently ranks 7th for King's all-time films. And those are two different lists where they combine worldwide for all the movies or domestic for all the movies. So Dark Tower ranks at 9th and 7th right now. So that's kind of interesting. And I think that's going to change here in the beginning of September.
With it.
Yeah, I think it might go and throw itself right towards the top of that list.
Oh, yeah.
Might even dethrone
1408?
The Green Mile for all time.
All time.
Yeah, but that would take its whole run, though, because that's like $230 million that one has. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, even the opening weekend, I'm sure 1408 will not hold that title once it comes out.
Yeah, no.
That one's looking really big to me. That one just like everything I see about it just makes me think like this is going to be a huge film for like whatever. And it's funny because like it's kind of like I saw some people comparing it to Beauty and the Beast in that like it's a nostalgia movie, and like when the original Beauty and the Beast cartoon came out, it's about the same time that the It miniseries came out. So you're just talking about like kids that were 5 or 6, like we probably were about that time, saw those and grew up loving that, and then so now for us, like it's a huge nostalgia kick to see Beauty and the Beast or It. So it's gonna play on the same like the note towards audiences perhaps. So it'll be interesting to see what we see with It. But yeah, so Dark Tower. Hopefully next time we talk next week, we might be able to say that we've passed that $60 million threshold.
We probably already have. Thinking about it, by the time this comes out with this weekend, I mean,
yeah, this weekend it'll be interesting to see. So I guess we'll talk next week, back when we're back on our regular schedule, and we can talk about what international and domestic has done during the course of this upcoming weekend, and hopefully it puts us where we need to be for at least a little bit of a profit. And yeah, now the next thing up is, and I actually don't have title cards for these next two because I was doing these on the fly. The first one, and this is a tough one because the article actually came from a foreign thing. It was actually a Swedish publication.
Okay.
And so I couldn't read it to begin with. But then when I went to try to look at it today and see if I could get some like Google Translate action or something going, it's a 404 error now, so I can't even get to the page doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, okay.
But it was an interview done with a Swedish publication, and the only thing they have on their thing is HD. It's like the name of the thing is HD, so I don't know It's just like hd.se or something like that.
Okay.
So that's the name. I'm guessing that's the name of the publication. If we, any Swedish listeners can let us know maybe fill us in on what we're missing here. But it was with them, and basically, again, I'm only basically going by what little bit I've seen when it comes to like people that were able to read it in its native language. Doesn't feel like it gives a whole lot of detail, but it basically Nikolai Arcel was interviewed by them and said that he would not be involved in any future Dark Tower projects.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I think the only other thing that I really saw mentioned that came out of the article is that starting here in the fall, he would be starting on his RFK film, which we talked about when he signed that with Matt Damon, I believe, is going to be starring in it. So I'm guessing that with, this also kind of, in my mind, bodes towards those rumors, which we haven't even talked in depth yet. Probably next week we will. But there was the article that came out that talked about the meddling and stuff, and the fact that Arcel potentially was almost sidelined by the end of the production, and producers and some other people were involved in getting the film to what we saw,
to what they wanted,
and to what we saw. So, I mean, this could go along with that, but of course, that's all just rumor and innuendo, and we don't ultimately know. So, that is okay. I think we're back. Yeah, look live on your end. Okay, that may be the delay, because now I'm showing. Yeah, okay, now it looks okay. We're okay. It might bump on you again. Sorry, guys. I don't
change the title card just so I know, so I can see on my stream.
Yeah, let's pop on over to this one real quick, and then we'll leave this over here, because now all we have is one more thing to go into before we jump into the emails. But yeah, looking like it's good on my end. Sorry, guys, about the issues with the record. Seems to be a pattern we've been seeing recently. Okay, so now I wanted to dust off the old art of book.
Oh yeah.
And so I was going through reading some of this, and I did want to share a little portion of it here, and this may be something that we come back to, because there's a lot of good information in this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you will enjoy some of what I have here. If I can find the page, I have a little sticky note stuck in here. It was like page 12 right there. Okay, so this was talking about the development of the Dark Tower, and as they were going and stuff, dealing with like Universal, Warner Brothers, some of the different studios and stuff, and the different iterations of the script. Basically, they talked about how they kept running script after script with Akiva Goldsman, Jeff Pinkner, some of these guys. And it says, every script proved maddeningly unmanageable, the common flaw biting off more than any audience could be expected to chew. And it says, Imagine Entertainment's Brian Grazer, executive producer, recalls the dead ends of that early phase. And this is a quote. He says, "We originally thought it as a 3-hour movie," he said. There were endless amount of details and characters, but it was thought of by the studios as being too epic for the economics and too epic in the level of detail. Movie studios expressed interest, temporarily buoying the film's prospects before eventually moving on. And then there's another quote. "We started at Universal with a very different movie," said Grazer. "It was a malaise of details and mythology and an extended cast, but instead of concluding that Universal were right, we remained on our journey to make that movie. We took that very big version up to Warner Brothers, but eventually got to the place where even they didn't quite get it." And it says Goldsman remembers the deep-cut details of those overstuffed, passed-over scripts. And this is a quote from Akiva Goldsman. He said, "There's..." I'm going to change the page here. There was a big cybernetic bear in the first scene that was already knocking people back, he says.
Holy crap.
So that would have been an interesting opening. Jake entered into the world already populated by Eddie and Susanna.
Oh.
So that's interesting. So it would have been bringing us right into book 3, apparently.
Yeah.
Further down was the City of Lud and the TikTok Man. "We started too hard and too fast." So I just thought that was kind of interesting to see that, that when we were talking about those rumors, me and you just way off air, because this is, almost a decade before, 5 or 6 years before we actually recorded.
Yeah.
And back when, like, in the era with, like, Javier Bardem and stuff, it looks like that's the kind of script we were looking at, is starting with Shardik and then moving on into Lud, having Eddie and Susanna just there from the beginning.
Man, I can see why a lot of studios would be like, man, this is just too much for audiences.
And they mentioned like a lot of characters and a lot of mythology. It makes
Yeah.
you wonder like where would they have gone from Lud? Like if it's a 3-hour movie,
Mhm.
like is Lud going to be an hour of it? You know, like
Or is
Shardik
Lud the conclusion? Like it's Shardik is the first thing, then traveling to Lud is the second act, and then Lud is the third act.
Yeah, I don't know. I can definitely see why maybe studios are a little bit more apprehensive about jumping on that because, man, that's a pretty big.
That's a big bite to chew.
Yeah, and how would you have felt about just having Eddie and Susanna there?
I don't know.
Skipping drawing of the
missing
three?
the drawing. That's although I could see where that would be a very good. Let's make some extra money. Let's go do a prequel. That would be a very good prequel type movie
Okay.
kind of thing, because I mean, like, even though there's where they end up, there's a lot of drama to get there. You know?
Yeah.
So I think that could have probably been, aside from Wizard and Glass, probably the best potential for a prequel that we could have had.
Yeah. But I mean, do you think overall that would have been? How would you feel if you were sitting in a theater and that's where your movie started?
It would have,
As a fan.
it would have thrown me off just a little bit, but I'm just like this one. I would have adjusted. You know.
Yeah.
The other thing also is
How do you
that-
feel like your wife would have felt about a movie like that?
Oh, it probably would have overwhelmed her.
Yeah.
I think the average movie
And just
fan would
using her as an
be-
example of like non-fans that would have been brought into the movie, like how would they have felt about it? Because
Also, the big thing that doesn't address is what we had with this movie is that it was clearly made obvious to everyone that this is a sequel movie to the books. The movie comes after the books and everything like that.
yeah,
Would that have been a more adaptation instead of a sequel?
yeah, I'm not sure.
That's where the question lies. Is okay? Am I watching the Dark Tower books adapted into film, or am I watching the sequel again? You know that. That's a question that I mean we asked that question, like you said, before we ever recorded a podcast. Do we want to see the next cycle, or do we want to see a straight adaptation?
Yeah, and I still wonder about that in my mind.
We had pretty lengthy conversations about that, about which is better, because we both had the same thought. You know,
Because
well, if you do a sequel, you have the free reign,
yeah,
kind of thing.
and you potentially even have resolution at the final chapter.
Yeah, because that was one thing that we talked about early on in either the podcast or before we even started recording. How do you have a series that ends on a cliffhanger like that?
yeah.
Like, yeah, I could just imagine what people would do if Harry Potter, after 8 movies, ended on a cliffhanger.
Although there's just part of me that thinks that those the movie fans that are strictly coming in from the movies, they deserve that same kick in the gut that we got. That's
Yep.
all I'm saying. Yeah, that would be an interesting conversation, like overall, just to think about. I mean, we're obviously beyond that now because we're in the realm that it is a sequel. But
Yep.
yeah, it's always been an interesting concept. Is like because if you do just have kind of like a quote happy ending in some way to where it's a little bit more resolved. I just don't know how someone that has watched but not read how they would see that necessarily. Maybe they wouldn't even care and they would just think it's fine. And then maybe one of these days they read the books and just be like, "Holy shit!"
Well, that's a different ending.
Yeah, that's a lot different than I have experienced before, or that I had anticipated. So, yeah, that's definitely an interesting concept. There is that kind of thing. But yeah, we'll probably delve back into this book a little bit as we go because there's some good stuff in there, and I'm kind of reading it through slowly. There's also a lot of just great artwork, obviously, with it being an art of book. There's just a lot of like just amazing pictures and stuff. Like I wish that like I had a digital version of it that I could even just share some of these pictures like on our like social media or making them covers of some of our podcast episodes because there's just some sweet looking pictures. But yeah, it's definitely good. I'd recommend it. Go ahead and pick it up on Amazon if you guys want because I think it's definitely a good read if you've enjoyed the movie or whatever. Just kind of see how it unfolded and stuff. And I'm just waiting to. I mean, I'm relishing a little bit. I haven't hit it too hard in reading it yet. Because I'm sure it's like I could probably read it all in one sitting because it doesn't seem like it's that heavy with the reading, but because there's a lot of pictures and stuff. But yeah, I'm gonna probably somewhat parse it out and read it slowly as we go. So that's all. I think that's all we got for our normal stuff. What I wanted to do is obviously jump into some more of the emails. We got a lot of email reactions to the movie, and I think there's a lot of good conversations to be had in that. So I think this where we left off last is actually a new emailer, which I think that we maybe even mentioned last time how many new emailers we had, and it's pretty cool to see all these new people chiming in. It's always fun to to see what new people think, and even if they do tell us how they found us, it's always fun. But this one is actually Steve from Chicago, and Steve starts out and says, actually sending this via work email, so taking a risk here.
Shame.
And he shushes us there.
He shushes us.
So Steve, welcome, and he starts off and says, "Heil Gunslingers, thanks for the podcast."
You're welcome.
Heil, and thanks for that. And he says, just call me Steve from Chicago. And he says, followed Stephen King ever since 1980 or thereabouts, when I dared myself to borrow The Shining from my 6th grade English teacher's little lending bookshelf, and I have since read everything that he has churned out since then. And first of all, I love the spirit of a 6th grade teacher having Stephen King books to lend out to those children. That's amazing. That's what,
especially The Shining.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, like, there's like 1 or 2 steps beyond The Shining that are worse for kids.
Yeah, there's a lot of adult stuff in there for sure. But yeah, I think that it's definitely, that's where I started. I mean, it didn't necessarily, I didn't get into it as much because I think it was a little bit too adult for me in terms of just like, not even like the horror side. Like I'm okay with horror, I can do that easily. But like some of the adult concepts of like, debt and marital issues and stuff, I'm just like, what the hell do I care? Then he goes on and says, I've been listening since late spring. Always enjoy your interactions and debating. And he says, in parentheses, a Siskel and Ebert of Dark Tower fandom, ? And I love it because he's from Chicago, too, which just makes, it even better because that's where those two fellows are from. He says, however, I would not presume to say which of you is Ebert or Siskel. Hee.
Aw.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember watching them a lot as a kid, but I don't even recall like necessarily even there like which one had more attitude or whatever.
Nah,
I don't know like which of the two.
I never watched them, so I don't know.
I always did, but I
always remember the movie preview. Siskel and Ebert give it 2 thumbs up.
Yeah, I guess we'd have to know, of course, which of them would be on Flag's side, and then we would
we be Tad and Peter give it 2 thumbs up? Hey,
yeah, Then he goes on and says, so a few words on the movie. He says, my grade, B-. Screw what the critics are saying. Even my often reliable morning TV news reviewer has gone so far as to give it a D- or a D. He has forgotten the face of his father. I am really irritated by certain fans complaining that this is nothing like the book, that Gunslinger should have been adapted whole, etc. If it has King's thumbs up, so it shall be. I would love to see a straightforward Gunslinger adaptation, maybe directed by Paul Thomas Anderson type, who can give us a brooding, cerebral tone that the book has. But such artiness does not bode well in Hollywood, particularly to Sony. And I would agree. I think that even if that kind of thing were made, I would say that it probably would have a little bit less appeal box office wise than what we have. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see though. Then he goes on and says, excellent performances from our 3 principals as expected. Totally with Peter about Tom Taylor's performance. He crushed me when he found his mother's ashes. And yeah, I think that's definitely probably the highlight of his performance for sure. Pretty brutal and pretty well played by Tom. And he said, let's see, Steve goes on and says, Idris can be mumbly sometimes. I expect that he will be more talkative in later iterations. And yeah, I think that they were definitely trying to play him a little bit more quiet, even though
the strong silent type.
Yeah, even though I don't even know how much he was super quiet. He definitely could have been quieter, but he definitely had the last of the movie, though. We could definitely admit that, which is fine because in the books, I think I laugh more at Roland than anyone else.
Yeah, his fish out of water stuff is just hilarious in
the books. Yeah. Like you have forgotten the faces of your father.
Savages. What breed?
Yeah, what breed? Yeah, indeed.
We should make that. We should make that into a T-shirt. Savages. What breed?
Then he goes on and says, my favorite line actually is from Flag. I can't even quote it directly, but the way he complimented his female minion's choice of faces, and he quotes here, says, beauty is a thing or some such. And yeah, I think that he says something along the lines of, pick a beautiful face and the whole world is your oyster. Yeah, is the essentials of the line. Yeah. Because it always made me laugh because it's just like, of course, Matthew McConaughey saying that. A man the world has been his oyster for a number of years now. Then he goes on and says, then clicking his teeth, you know that he wants to take her to the bedroom later. Yeah, no, that's an interesting take. I don't know if I necessarily thought. I always just feel that he has just like disdain for all the.
Which is the way. I thought the same thing because when he walks in, he's like, "You're in my house. Put a face on, Rat Man."
Yeah.
That.
Yeah, he doesn't feel like he gives a whole lot of regard to any of them necessarily. I mean,
No.
not even just that one there that he gives all that like that shit to. It just feels like they're just like cockroaches that and he just like walks amongst them and that kind of thing. Even with the pretty face, I don't know. But yeah, I guess it's just a different interpretation on it.
Yeah.
He says, I think we need a further discussion about the Manny Village and the story and the performances there. The brief puppy love between Jake and the farm girl, the seer. It seems to try to introduce many people at once without making any person stand out as someone who we care to see again. Fortunately, they all got killed off. So, yeah, I actually, that is an interesting thing with like Jake. I think that was a really interesting choice.
Yeah.
To like where he's almost like flirtatious with the girl, and I mean it's a short, scene overall, but like, I felt as a Dark Tower fan that I would love to have seen more of that.
Yeah.
Just because, like, they know he's a gunslinger by his look and stuff. They're not asking him. Like the guy, the chieftain has like the Ka symbol on his jacket, and I don't know. Then like the door. I mean, there's just a lot there that's just like, this is like what we would expand upon if it was a book. You know what I mean? This is the mid-world stuff that we got to know pretty well through mostly book 5. But a little bit in book 3 with like
the old people at River Crossing.
Yeah, and then I'm trying to think if there's anyone else that really jumps out at me. I mean, I guess book 4 with the flashback stuff, you get to know Midworld pretty well.
Midworld before it moved on.
Yeah, with like cultures and like the way that they interact with each other and like the way that society works and stuff through that. So yeah, kind of that meat of that middle part of the series, you really get a lot of that stuff. And this is your portion of that for the movie to really get to know Roland's world and see how it functions, and to even get some hints about what he is as a gunslinger. Like to see what he means to these people, what how they treat him, and like,
how he treats them as well is a big thing. Like that surprises Eddie a couple times in book 5, where Roland's like, we're gonna do this. This is what is required of us, and Eddie's like, this isn't helping us get to the tower.
Yeah,
and Roland kind of shuts him down. And it's like, it doesn't matter. We're the white. This is our responsibility.
Yeah.
And that's the first time you see Roland ever act like that, really.
Yeah, and I don't think that we're to that point for this Roland yet. I think that's why he's not as, like, open to, like, helping them necessarily. He's there to pretty much use them, and I think that, that obviously gets played up in the movie to where they're just like, you basically aren't, you're not a gunslinger.
It's very reminiscent of Tull, actually.
Yeah.
With, like, the stable guy where he's like, it's something with his donkey. I can't remember what, but he's like, like put up my donkey and you're going to do what I say and everything like that.
Yeah.
And then he mouths off to Roland, and Roland turns around and the guy like freaks out like, "Oh God, no, please don't kill me."
And even like Allie, he's using her. Yeah. I mean, he uses everyone in that town as much as he can. So yeah, I think it's just definitely still, even if we have an evolution of Roland as he's redeeming his soul, and this is a different Roland than from we had in book 1, I still feel that like he still has some little ways to go. He's still not that knight from book 5 just yet. Like, it probably takes a little bit more.
Yeah.
And maybe, like, having Jake there is a big thing to help him a little bit. And we obviously saw during the course of this movie, it took him from forsaking the tower to, I mean, I guess it's still left to your interpretation a little bit, because he doesn't really say that he's going to the tower at the end of the movie.
Well,
I think you can kind of assume. I assumed that.
Well, especially since they went back to Midworld.
Yeah. But I just assume that they're on the quest for the tower. But that could just be me as a book fan knowing probably what's coming next. So I'm just trying to think, like, in the context of the movie, though, they don't really give you that.
Right.
That's more, we're implying that into the, we're inferring that into the movie, and we're inserting that into the movie because of our prior knowledge. So,
well, especially with that last shot of the rose graffiti.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's true. That may be your closest thing to like having a little bit of a wink, at least, like this is what's going on. But yeah, it isn't necessarily in the text of the movie. It's in the subtext of the movie,
right?
And most of it taken from the fact that we're knowledgeable Dark Tower fans, and your average audience member, though, they probably don't know. They might assume because
Yeah.
with like there already was a conversation earlier in the movie about saving the tower and stuff. So maybe a casual fan would assume that that's what they're doing. But
Well, the other big thing is that it's if you're going to be a casual movie, if you're going to look at it from a casual movie fan standpoint, you got to look at it as a casual movie fan thinks that Jake is asking him to save the tower. Roland did that in the eyes of the movie. So
that's true.
So Roland's.
I guess that's true.
If-
A movie fan wouldn't understand that the tower is still in danger.
Right. If you look at it,
I
well,
guess
I mean, unless you
we just still don't know that it even is. I mean, we're just
Yeah.
assuming that it is.
like I saw something about like if Walter's still alive and there's more than one station where they had kids breakers, then obviously yes, the tower's still going to be in danger. But they never really went into that. Sir, how are the other facilities going? Oh, they're just fine. We're going to work from this one for now, kind of thing,
Yeah.
and everything. And they never did anything like that. They never made it seem like the tower was in danger. But let me point this out as well. In book 1, did you get the feeling that the Dark Tower was in danger?
I don't recall. I mean, he wants to get to the tower. I
It's
remember
not
that toward the end.
is it ever discussed that the tower is in danger? When do we discover in this series of books that the tower is in danger?
I'm not sure. Looks like we have Ryan in the chat and the Dark Tower Stephen King Facebook group somewhere. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit ago. It was I think it was a Swedish thing that was originally posted, a Swedish article talking about Nikolai. But right now it's getting a 404 error, and I can't really get to it. But yeah, we did already talk about that fact that it sounds like Nikolai Arcel is no longer involved with the Dark Tower series.
No worries, Ryan.
Yeah, no worries. But yeah, it's definitely kind of a story that, we did touch on a little bit, but unfortunately, American media hasn't picked up on it yet. So the only article that I have seen so far is going to a 404 error currently, and it wasn't in English, so I couldn't really get much from it anyway.
Right.
But I did see from some people that were kind of analyzing it, basically saying that he mentions the RFK movie that's coming up in the fall, and that he's no longer involved with any future Dark Tower projects.
Right.
So...
But yeah, back to what we were talking about is it's interesting to think about. I honestly maybe need to pay attention next time I do a read through. Is when did we first hear that the Dark Tower is actually in danger? Book 5?
I want to say it's earlier than that. I want to say that even in book 2 or 3, is where you start to get the sense that there's a danger involved.
Yeah.
That the quest is not just
to reach the tower.
Yeah.
Because see, that's how it's worded in book 1. I remember that vividly. That it's because I think I came to you after book 1. I'm like, why does he need to go to the tower? You're like, just keep reading. It gets explained.
Yeah.
And everything. And I was perplexed. Like, okay, what's the point of getting there?
Yeah. What we'll have to do is keep track of that in the book clubs then. Because
Yes.
we're still so early in book 2 that he hasn't talked about the tower yet. So
Not except for that little bit with Walter at the Golgotha, which is just.
But I mean, during the course of book 2, because if we're not counting book 1 and moving on to the book 2, I'm just saying he hasn't talked about the tower yet. So if we keep track from this point in our book clubs,
That's true.
So yeah, keep that in mind because we'll be able to uncover that during the course of our book
Pinpoint it,
clubs. Yeah. So, all right, and then Steve goes on here and says, biggest quibble was the demon at the house. Pointless to non-fans. Nothing but fan service that was dispensed with a simple shine command. So then are we to assume that this is supposed to that this supposed reset of the adventure is a reset for Jake as well? Has his shine improved from before? It surely was a huge struggle in the Wastelands when Flag used his gizmo to read Jake's powers. I couldn't help but mutter midichlorians are off the scale. Yeah. Now at the same time though, I think that Dark Tower's always been one to cross science and the supernatural. I mean, even just the beam breakers and stuff
we've always seen the comparison between Roland using magic with the Manny and stuff like that versus North Central Positronics making doorways out of technology.
Yeah.
We always see that in the book series where it's old and run down and it looks like it makes them sick going through one in book 7 kind of thing. So it's you see the balance of magic and science kind of thing.
Yeah. And again, but then again, I'm not even necessarily defending that little gizmo that Flag had. I tend to think that, again, if Jake had just destroyed the monster with his shine instead of just shutting it off and just make it a little bit more dramatic and make it be more of a thing where you play it off in the script is wow, how powerful does one have to be to destroy a gatekeeper like this?
Well, that's what isn't one of the henchmen say that.
Well, no, I think because what he says is that someone got through one of the portals, and he's like, "Does that ever happen before?"
Yeah,
but they don't necessarily talk about like. I'm just saying if they would have shifted it from him just telling the gatekeeper stop and then it just listens. It seems because that's the way it feels like the movie plays to me.
Almost like a guard dog.
Make
like, sit.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
Make it be more of like he's just kind of like, and not even that he can control it, but there's just like in that heightened moment of emotion. He just sends out like this boom of shine that just destroys the monster, and then maybe after he jumps through, you even see the house collapse in on itself because he's just destroyed it. And then at that point, you can play it up from Flag's perspective, where they're just like, "Holy shit! Like, how powerful does one have to be to destroy an entire gatekeeper like this? Like, that's not whatever." And that's the point where they're like, "Okay, this is something special. Like, this is someone powerful. This person could potentially take down the tower by themselves."
Yep.
It's just a small difference, but I think it could have played a little bit better than it did, but I don't know. Hindsight's 2020, and we're just
the big thing is also is that like Steve said here is that that's just service for the book fans who know what the Dutch Hill Monster is and what it can do and everything like that.
Yeah, and
the problem I had with it is the big thing in the book. If we're and I agree with Steve, there was nothing there for the non-book fan audience.
No,
there really wasn't. There was
but
no.
With as quick as it gets resolved, does it really give a whole lot to us? I think we were more excited about it seeing it in the trailer than we were about seeing it in the movie
because it was like,
the way it plays
crap,
out.
Well, the big thing the big thing in the book was that Jake had to stay away from the mouth. Like it would crush him, it would kill him, and everything like that. And this, he gets sucked right into the mouth, like instantly. It's like there's no pants getting ripped off, and I kind of understand that part. You don't want to take a young boy's pants off in a film. That's just not kosher anymore and everything. And it could have been done differently to where the monster actually was formidable. Like everyone keeps saying that it's like, well, wait a minute, just one burst of shine. I think that a lot of people are expecting that to be like a mini boss fight is how people have worded it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, they missed a chance for a mini boss fight and everything like that. But what I think is more the point is what you're saying is that they missed a point to show just how powerful Jake is,
and to do it
in a more visual way instead of just destroying the monster. You level the house,
less clunky than just like the little watch thing that he puts next to him. Like, oh, you're just as powerful as advertising, and then like to me that just felt a little bit clunky.
Yeah,
and like so you could show it a different way. To where again, if you see that house get destroyed, and then just have the villains play it up to where it's like, what the hell? Like,
show Flag standing across the street, where there's the crowd gathered and the fire trucks are there and everything like that. And the police are like, what the hell happened here and everything like that. And then he goes back to his henchman and he's like, he killed the monster. He killed the monster?
Yeah.
Like, how do you do that? He must have used the shine. Wait, what are you saying? He leveled the house. With the shine, make it where it's like a dramatic like that, like sell it where it's like, holy crap, this guy's powerful, and like not the midichlorian count kind of thing, like Steve's saying is where it's just, yep, you are powerful. That's kind of the I see what he's saying. It's kind of that's the cheap way out.
Yeah,
we can do a 10-minute scene. We have enough runtime to give here to do an extra 10 minutes where it's the characters are a chance to explain instead of just a little device that explains it.
Yeah,
I mean that's like someone like holding out a stopwatch and going, "Oh, let's see how fast Roland is." Oh wow, you're really fast. It's like, no, you show it, and that's your and Steve's point here is that we're not gonna take a stopwatch and be like, "Hey, can you show me how fast you draw?" Wow, that was really fast.
Yeah,
you don't do that. You show the audience.
And they did with Roland because when Roland draws, you get Jake's reaction instantly after at that one point when they're together. So, and again, this of course is just minor quips. I mean, I think that I guess if you guys are joining for the first time, we both love the movie, so we're not we're not being like we're just. It's one of those things that just as fans we're going to obviously like hyper analyze and nitpick and that kind of thing. But overall, I love the movie, so and I think Peter did too. So I guess like if this is your first time listening, just know that I suppose that. I don't know. It's kind of like the old joke is that Star Wars doesn't need haters because there's enough hate in the fan community, and I don't think this is even necessarily hate, but a little bit of criticism from the fan community, I suppose. Okay, then he goes on and says, "I have been cajoling my social media non-Dark Tower friends to go see the movie, to not expect been cajoling my social media non-Dark Tower friends to go see this movie, to not expect much, but to have fun time and hopefully increase the box office take. as impetus for much needed sequels and TV shows. And yeah, I think that's definitely a good thing. I've been doing a similar thing, and just at least in the fact that like the last showing I went to and the one I'm going to be going to tomorrow on the 19th are both with someone with me, so that'll be fun. The one I went with last time is midway through book 1. The one that I'm going with tomorrow has never read or he has no knowledge of it beyond the trailers, so it'll be interesting to see what he thinks. The next up, Steve goes on here and says, I envision the next movie will have to dump Jake early on, and he says bringing in Jack Mort, ? To get the drawing of the 3 so that we can introduce Eddie and Susanna and then somehow get the quartet together to recover Jake as a climax. And personally, I don't see it happening that way. I don't see Jake actually dying. I think that is the evolution of this being a sequel. I think that like the drawing of the 3, I don't know. I mean, I guess
it's Oi.
At the same time,
it's going to be Oi.
Because even at the same time, drawing of the 3 was never 3 because Jake doesn't come till the next book.
Nope.
So
it was more,
drawing of the 3 was always the drawing of the 2 technically, and the 3 waits for the next book. So I guess in the same way, it would be the drawing of the 2 because I mean
or it's the drawing of the 3 and he drew Jake in the first movie.
Yeah, either way, but it's separated because just like in the books, the drawing of the 3 was again not actually the 3, it was the 2 because Jack Mort doesn't really get drawn necessarily. Killed, but he doesn't get necessarily pulled in and part of their quartet. Although I do remember when I was reading the book the first time, there was part of me that just thought, holy shit, are they really going to bring this guy in and have him part of their group? And just imagine if they had.
Oh, I know, right? The serial killer type.
Imagine if Jack Mort had stayed with them, man. Because like already, like when I was reading it the first time, I was just like, dude, like this is like a crazy amalgamation. Like you got a freaking junkie, you've got a freaking like multiple personality person, and one of her personalities is like psychotic, like psychotically evil. And there was just part of me that's just like, wouldn't this just like complete the trifecta by making this like absolute sociopath that created the multiple personalities lady to being the way that she is, both mentally and physically, be part of the group too. So the first time reading it, I remember just thinking, oh my god, like this is gonna be insane.
Yeah. Did you ever think about like down the storyline where what would happen if Odetta found out who Jack Mort was?
Oh yeah, I mean all those things kind of went through my mind of just like, dude, the possibilities of this. Like, and I was just thinking like, Stephen King, like you're brilliant to like do something so sinister and so like insane, but obviously it didn't pan out that way. So I don't know. Like, yeah, that's is something though. Then he goes on and goes a longer, more expansive / expensive adult movie. Let's see. Yeah. The 3 so they can get Eddie and Susanna and then somehow get the content recovered. Jake is the climax. A longer, more expansive / expensive and adult movie. Then they can start the fun of the Wastelands, early Wizard and Glass events for the next picture. Wolves needs to be its own movie after that. Which I think that we would agree in terms of like, I don't know, like I think that'd be like Wizard and Glass, the flashback parts is going to be the TV series, but the next movie should be the drawing of the 3, the movie after that being Wastelands, the movie after that being Wolves of the Kala, and then from there get into, because I think you're going to have to, like the 7th one has to be at least 2 movies in my opinion. As it's
6 and 7.
Well, I mean 6 could probably be its own movie, but like 7, that's got to be a couple
nothing
movies.
in 6 that you couldn't put into 7.
Especially if you did a 2-parter.
Well, especially if you're going to cut out all the Stephen King stuff. Remember, he said in no way is Stephen King going to be in this series. You cut all that out. All you have then is them getting to Susanna.
Yeah,
if you go that
they'd
route.
have to add some more threat in some way. Maybe add more to the Rose or more to Calvin Tower. Something else had to be involved. Like, because there's just too much tied up in King to just chop that out whole cloth and not be left with like a lot less stress and a lot less drama. So
well, also if you believe that this is the only time we're going to see the Breakers, well, you've also taken out that thread as well from book 7.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
which is where we lose a member the first time we lose a member of the quartet and everything like that.
Yeah,
and the quartet actually breaks there because Eddie gets shot. They leave.
Susanna's done at that
point. They leave, and then Roland comes back with just Oi. And that just breaks Susanna even further and everything. So
yeah, Yeah, indeed. And then Ryan in the chat says, I think it's healthy to pick apart something that you love. I can write a massive list on what's wrong with the prequels, but I'll watch them till I arrive at the clearing at the end of the path. And I agree totally. Like, and I think it's not even just the prequels, but the sequel movies for Star Wars and even the original movies of Star Wars. There's plenty to pick at with even the originals. Take off the nostalgia glasses, especially. I don't know. There's definitely. I'm the same. Yeah, it's definitely okay to like criticize stuff you love and. Yeah, I'm the same.
That's the thing is, it doesn't even necessarily have to be construed as criticism. It can just be like, hey, I'm a fan, what if in this scenario?
Yeah, like we were just at work the other day, and I was just talking about some of the issues I still have with Force Awakens.
Yeah,
it's just like, come on, like, but that's just the fan in me. Like, if I wasn't a fan, I just wouldn't give a hell, and I would have moved on. And 2 days after the movie had come out, like that would have been the end of it. But my fandom is one of those things where I love to just go through and think every little thing and just overanalyze every little thing. That's my fandom. And as part of that, of course, some of that's going to come off as sounding critical because as you go through and pick everything out piece by piece, suddenly the beach becomes individual grains of sand. Mm-hmm. Suddenly the picture doesn't look as like
appealing,
cohesive because it's not a huge beach anymore. Now it's like all these billions of little pieces of sand that you're analyzing. But that's just me. I know everyone and it does things differently with their fandom, but that's the way mine is. And I think you guys have probably maybe seen that to some extent in this podcast already. If not, you will, especially if we end up not getting any sequels or anything, and we're just straight into the books the rest of the way for this podcast.
Yeah,
you'll be seeing my picking and going through and analyzing every little thing.
Yeah, he's really critical of Eddie.
Never trust a junkie, sir. I mean, of course, that was later on that we end up getting Gus Fring to tell us that in Breaking Bad. But it's something that I always knew. He just had to put those words there to be like, okay, that's it. That's exactly it. Never trust a junkie. I guess you could say the same thing about Roland, though. Of course, I wouldn't interpret it that way. But anyone could say the same thing about Roland. He's the tower junkie, and he's the only junkie that doesn't break his addiction during the course of the series.
Well, Flag really doesn't. He dies before he has a chance to try and break it.
He's not a junkie for anything.
Oh, he's absolutely a junkie.
Unless you want to say chaos.
Thank you. There you go.
Nothing wrong with that. Chaos is a ladder, sir.
Get out of here.
Okay, and Steve goes on. He says, I have to be honest, though. He has not forgotten the face of his father. Arcel is not the greatest movie director. There were so many moments for me that just didn't pace well or had little subtlety or had little subtlety. I feel like he is the Christopher Columbus when headed Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. He created a world, didn't screw it up, and gave the gravitas it needed for fans and non-fans, and wisely gave the chair for movie 3 to Alfonso Cuarón, and now Cuarón would be a great director for the next film. And that's actually one that I've heard before as like a potential. I would love. I mean,
isn't he doing a movie right now that we both were kind of interested in? What was it?
I can't recall.
There was something recently we talked about, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm always looking forward to so many movies. It's hard to keep track of everything, but yeah, that would be an interesting. And I guess getting into like dream casting and what would be the future Dark Tower filmmakers, that'd be an interesting.
Ryan Johnson.
Ryan Johnson. What about
Sorry, Ted's just such a fanboy for Ryan Johnson now. So
I am. What about I'm blanking right now. The dude that did Shawshank.
Frank Darabont?
Yeah, Frank Darabont. I don't know why I was blanking on his name.
Yeah, I
he's 3 for 3 with Stephen King adaptations, man.
Uh-huh.
And he can cast that lady from The Mist in some role. Just for you.
No.
Just for you.
No. Bad Tad. Hashtag Tad is terrible.
He would have cast her as Sylvia Pittston if he had done the first movie. And then he signs off on Long Days and Pleasant Nights, signed Steve from Chicago. Thanks, Steve. Thanks for the email, and welcome to the Extended Quartet. And yeah, thanks for emailing. It's always great to hear from new people and to get people's takes on the movies. It's always fun. And then next up is, let's go ahead and change over the title card here, is Tucker, and this is a shorter email.
Okay.
Tucker says, hey guys, just curious, you didn't think that the film totally dropped the ball on Roland's character? Halfway through the movie, you find out that Roland has essentially cried off the tower. I understand that changes were made to make it more of a blockbuster, but I at least thought that they would get the character right. I feel that they missed what made Roland what he is, his utter obsession with the tower and getting there. That was the one thing you knew that he would never do. Now, on that, I think we talked a little bit about this, but I think this is a great segue to an awesome conversation. And that's it from Tucker, so thank you, Tucker, for the email.
Yeah, thank you.
But I think what it comes down to for me, and Peter can chime in with if he has any different thoughts on or interpretations on it. But my interpretation has always been that Roland is on a quest to redeem his soul more so than the tower, and with each cycle, he either gets better or worse towards that eventual goal of redeeming his soul. And I believe that the way that looks inside the movie is when he eventually saves his soul completely, he will, if we get the same exact story breakdown, it would be him following Susanna through the door after Algociento is defeated and the tower is rendered safe. He would then say, "Fuck it, this is it. I'm going to my family, and I'm choosing my loved ones over the tower." Walk through that door with her to live with the fake Eddie and fake Jake, and eventually a fake Oi, and that's the redemption of Roland, because that would then break the cycle, and it breaks it because he's redeemed his soul. I believe that because like whatever you want to call it, the tower, whether it's the tower itself or whether it's Gan, interacted almost like divine intervention to change Roland's past to have him get the horn, because that was before his cycle repeats.
Right.
So that's outside of his normal loop. That's something that goes back, potentially hundreds of years prior to the loop starting. So for him to
thousands, if you want to go off of the movie, he says, "I've been fighting him for thousands of years."
Yeah, so it's like one of those things that like he's been doing this for a long time, but like to go back that far before to let him pick that horn up, I believe is some sort of divine intervention, and because Roland did make progress, I believe that probably the crux of the matter in the books for me, where his soul is somewhat redeemed, is the fact that he chose to sacrifice himself to save Jake, even though he failed because his body like seized up on him. But his ultimate heart choice was to die to let Jake live, to save Stephen King. And I believe that's the moment when Roland's soul, in my mind, gets a little bit to it. Like, look at it like an energy bar for, like, call it Mario or call it Mortal Kombat, whatever you want to call it. You have like a bar. Once it gets filled to 100, he's redeemed. And I don't know, like, whatever precipice he's at.
Yeah, but once he gets the bar full and gets redeemed, then he's able to do the special move, which is cry off the tower. Right.
Because his damnation is in his addiction, like we just mentioned a minute ago. He's the one that doesn't break his addiction, because I believe that's what we're trying to see, is Roland break his addiction. And I think what happened is that with him redeeming his soul X%, call it 60% of the way, he's 60% of the way there, thereabouts in my mind. I feel like that's it. He's gotten over half of his soul back. He's getting there. He got the horn, which again in the books, because it references the horn, is like Roland even regrets not picking it up. It's like, it would have taken 3 seconds to reach down and pick that up. Why didn't I do it?
Yeah.
And he regrets that. So, because again though, but we know the Roland in the books is a Roland that has much less of a soul, and that Roland, what the fuck does he care about a horn? It doesn't mean anything. It's useless. It's not going to get him anything. It doesn't gain him anything. It doesn't get him closer to the tower. It's useless. So he's not going to pick it up. That's the Roland from that. That's the Roland from book 1. Now get to the Roland in the movie. In my opinion, it has more of a soul. He picked up that horn, but as part of that, though, I believe that the journey that we know that Roland goes through with losing his love of his life, killing his mom, watching his dad die now, all these different things, those things wrecked him and destroyed him. Those things have made him a shell of a man, and that's the Roland that we see here. He's only after vengeance, and that's why they're saying in this movie he's not a gunslinger, because he's given up those things. All he cares about is
you're a disgrace to your ancestors, is something along the lines that one guy says to him in the Manny Village.
Yeah, and that's my interpretation, is that's where Roland's at. He's a shell of a man. The soul, it's almost a weird thing where the soul gaining his soul back hurts his drive, because he's broken. He's a broken man.
Well, here's my take on it, and this is something that we've talked about before as well, is that you've had the theory now for years that Roland's soul is redeemed and he can go through the door with Susanna. And I've always pointed out that, what about the Crimson King? He's still at the tower. He's still a threat and everything.
Stuck, though.
He's stuck, right? Absolutely. But the thing is that if someone does get a sigil of the Eld, they could potentially release him to climb the tower. So there's, or
they can get stuck too.
I think there's a risk there by not continuing to the tower. I think the ultimate ending would be Roland laying his guns at the base of the tower and then turning on a quest to go find his family, to catch back up to Patrick. You know, like if we take book 7, okay,
as it is,
just like you're saying, there's the doorway, Susanna goes through it and everything like that. Imagine if in the film adaptation, kind of thing, what if they don't die. That's the big thing.
Yeah,
That's the big thing that we've discussed as well, is that Eddie dying at
Algo.
I keep wanting to call it Divortoy, but that's the Field of Roses. Eddie dying at Algo and Jake dying to save King. Okay, well, if Roland redeems himself before that, like you're saying he has more of a soul already, if he redeems himself before that, we didn't see Jake die in the film. That's a big thing. We just talked about that a little bit also, is that Jake may not be killed now.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So that was one of the big blows to Roland in the start of the series in the books, is that's a major thing that damaged him, is that he let Jake fall to reach the tower instead.
Yeah.
Instead of saving Jake, he chose the tower. This time it doesn't feel like he chose the tower over Jake, but the obsession is already gone. So my question is this is where I think it'll go, is where he's going to have a choice. And picture this, okay? See if you would like this and what fans would like here. Kind of almost an Inception kind of thing, where we still get an ending that's worthy of the books. Eddie, Jake, Susanna, Oy, Roland all reach the tower. We don't even need to have Patrick Danville there necessarily. Roland gets to the tower. They handle the Crimson King as a quartet. Maybe there's something else there where it's not just Sneetches and him screaming at him. Maybe there's something else, Maybe just Roland's proximity to the tower releases the Crimson King, and we have a full-on fight. Okay? Make it a boss battle. People keep wanting that with the Dutch Hill Monster and everything like that. They defeat the Crimson King. Of course, Eddie's going to get the kill shot because he's the biggest badass in the whole group. But then Roland walks up to there, and he does in front of the quartet, he does the names, which I think would be fantastic to still see in the films. This is for Alan, this is for Cuthbert, this is for my father, this is for my mother, Gabrielle Deschain, and everything like that. He lays the cross down from the old lady at the river crossing. He lays his guns down, and then he has the choice. And this is where we're talking about what you're saying with the soul redemption. Now I feel that they've tied up the loose end that the Crimson King's taken care of. But now he has the choice. Do I mount the tower, or do I turn around and leave with my quartet? I've seen the tower. I've saved the tower. Now I can go be with my family. Do you see that? And then what you have is you have that shot of Roland where he's like making the decision, closes his eyes, makes the decision, and we go black.
Imagine too if we also have almost even some sort of disembodied voice for the tower, to where that even just tells them that he's the only one that can enter, the others can't. So that if he does want to enter the tower, he has to leave his family. They have to go.
Yeah,
because it's only his. Like the tower's for him.
Yeah, and they can't come in because they're not of the Eld. They're gunslingers, but they're not of the line of Eld.
And it's for Roland. I mean, as he goes up, those are images from his whole life.
Like Eddie goes to start to mount the steps, and you hear the disembodied voice. No. Only Roland.
Or even doesn't even
or something.
It doesn't have to be a voice. It could even just be some sort of barrier. He tries to walk up and gets freaking thrown back.
And Roland, we can't go with you. Come with us.
Of course, to get thrown halfway across the field, though. If he tries to go up.
Hey, see, this kind of statement is where I think that you hate Oi. Crap like that is where it comes from.
I'm just saying, if it pushed Eddie a little bit, Oi, as small as he is, would get.
No! Shut up! You're doing it on purpose to jide me. That's all it is. Shame on you. Shame. Hashtag Ted is terrible. That's 2 in this one. Shame on you.
I think that's only 1, actually.
That's 2.
Sound check doesn't count.
No, I did one just a few minutes ago.
Did you? I must have missed it.
But no, what do you, I mean, Ryan has a question, but before we get to that, I think that would be a very, very good way of still giving us a little bit of a cliffhanger, but if we do it over 3 or 4 movies, I think the big thing that we can interpret from that is Roland's actions through those movies are going to dictate his final decision.
Yeah, and then just do a post-credit scene where you show him make the choice.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. That's the way to do it.
That would be good, though.
You leave people on the edge because a lot of people
walk out. Yeah, because then I could get up and walk out during the credits like I did for the freaking books.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but yeah, I think that's so. Tucker, I think to answer your question, I think that's. Personally, I know a lot of people are having an issue with that, but personally, it's actually one of my favorite parts of the movie because that's the way I've always interpreted the ending, and the way the movie plays works exactly with my interpretation of the ending. So I love it because it fits for me. Like Roland would be a broken man because a man with a soul can't go through the things that Roland went through and
hold his sanity.
Yeah, and come through whole. Like that just doesn't happen. Like that will destroy him. That is a gauntlet.
Right.
And the only reason he's able to get through it in the books, the Roland that we have in book 1, is because he's essentially a soulless, heartless monster. Like, he's a Terminator, and he has no soul. He has no heart. He doesn't care. As long as the tower is his goal, he doesn't care that he killed his mom.
Right.
He doesn't care that Susan was burned alive. He doesn't care about those things. I mean, there's a smallest twinge there, maybe, but, like, it doesn't matter.
I think he says it in the books at one point where Eddie's like, you know,
Eddie-
why don't
Eddie-
you feel anything? And Roland's like, what do you want me to do? Roland says, what do you want me to do? Sit down and just mule over my injustice that have been done to me?
Yeah.
Or do you want me to do something about it? I think it's in book five.
And
Book 6.
there's also a point when Eddie accuses him. He's like, you would let any of us die for your tower. And Roland doesn't deny it. He doesn't say anything.
No, he doesn't.
But he doesn't deny it because it's true.
Yeah.
You know, and I think this is like a little bit earlier because I think, again, his soul gets redeemed at some point in book 4 or 5. Somewhere in that range, I think, is where the switch changes in him. But you know, so I think this is a little bit earlier. I think this may be book 3 or so when that accusation gets thrown at him, and he doesn't say anything because it's like it's true at that point. It's true. He doesn't care. Like
I think it is book 3. Maybe it's book 5, where he's like, you'd kill any one of us to get to your damn tower, and then Roland doesn't say anything, and he's like, holy shit, you know, like, oh my god, like, really doesn't. That wouldn't face him at all.
Yeah, totally true.
To get to Ryan's question, sorry, Ryan, it was the line, did you tell the kid whoever walks with you dies by my hand? Even in the movie, or was it just in the trailer? I can't remember it being in the film, but only saw it once. Yes, it was in the movie. It's in the gun shop when Flag's messing with his head.
Using Black 13 to, like, appear right, like he's there in front of him or behind him or whatever.
Yeah, it's like, it's actually a lot quicker than it is in the trailer.
And it has a different cadence to it.
It does.
It's a different, they have a different cut in the movie than there was in the trailer.
Roland's kind of scrambling around, moving, you know, and everything like that. And that's when he says it. So it's not the shot that we saw from the trailer where it's Matthew McConaughey sitting there with the ball in his hand and everything like that. Dude, everyone who walks with you dies by my hand. No, it's a little bit faster. It's like Ted said, a different cadence.
Yeah, for sure. But it's definitely there. But yeah, it's definitely played in a different manner for sure. Okay, so next up is...
Thanks for the email, Tucker. I don't know if I said that.
Yeah, thanks for the email, Tucker. Next up is Jennifer. And I believe Jennifer is a first-time emailer. She doesn't give us a city, but
Jennifer from Midworld.
So she starts off and says, "I guess we call this an alternate viewpoint." And she says, "In a long one, in places, feel free to edit as needed." And I'll just take it as is because why not? This is Palaver. Palaver's never a short and abridged thing. Let's see. So now she starts off and says, "Number 1, how did you like it? Scale of 1 to 19. She says, as a generic young adult adventure movie, maybe a 14. As an adaptation of Dark Tower, no higher than a 10. Did you feel the runtime is detrimental to the film? I don't think it was particularly hurt. It was a bit rushed, but I didn't get the feeling that they'd have any, that they would have used any additional time in a way that would have improved it. And that's definitely fair. She goes in terms of like, yeah, if you interpret it, the movie that way, that, you know, like time would have necessarily changed it in whatever way. Then she go number 3. Did you like Idris Elba's Roland? I think he did a great job with what he was given. Number 4, how did you like Matthew McConaughey as Walter? And she goes on here and says, I was so excited by this casting. I love Randall Flagg. He was my first King villain, Eye of the Dragon, as a child, and will probably always be my favorite. His death in Book 7 annoyed me enough again that I still haven't finished it. I think I've ranted about the idiocy of that scene to my poor mother every time we've discussed The Dark Tower since the book came out. So I wish I could put my finger on what didn't work for me with McConaughey's portrayal. Flagg is a chameleon. He changes by the plot that is working. In Eye of the Dragon, he works entirely behind the scenes. In The Stand, he's running things. Sometimes he's just an evil presence in the story. In The Dark Tower, he's apparently every magic user that Roland ever meets, or that impacts his storyline, regardless of their meeting. So while I don't think that I appreciate him as the actual administrator of the breaking, he's more of a freelance fixer than the head of a corporation. I still don't think that's my problem. It may just be that I've built Flagg so perfectly in my mind that I can't appreciate any actor's portrayal.
I'm worried, terrified actually. That's going to happen with Eddie.
For Eddie.
I'm terrified of it. Really, I am. That's my biggest fear. And honestly, it was kind of a little bit of a relief when I found out that Eddie wasn't going to be... I mean, of course, I was like, oh, no, Eddie. But the little part of me was like, oh, they're not going to mess it up. you know, and I know that you're such a Flag fan.
Yeah.
So I think you're more adequately able to weigh in on this.
Yeah, and I think that like I could definitely see what she's saying. And I think that he definitely always has different forms and different styles. Like the flag in the Dark Tower series is different than the flag in the Stand. Like he's
absolutely
way different because there are different circumstances. There are different things that need to be portrayed. I think there's definitely some moments that were very flag-like. Again, my biggest gripe was that accent that he was using. Kind of bothered me a little bit.
And then it like disappeared halfway through the movie too.
Yeah, which was fine by me. But yeah, no, I would have. I think that's where I would say that for Flag, I think that if he would have had a little bit just more time to just play as Flag, just give Flag some more scenes, it may have done better for me. But I do know what she's saying here with just having a hard time letting anyone capture that. And I think that's where I think most people, whether they understood it or not, that's probably where their concern about Roland was, is that, Roland is such a huge character that everyone was worried that he wouldn't ever be able to be captured by any actor properly.
Right.
So it's...
Well, that was your biggest fear with Russell Crowe, is you're like, this dude can't play a complex character like Roland.
Yeah.
You're like, it's just not him. That's what you honestly believe, right? I'm speaking for you here, so correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I'm just not a huge... I mean, some of his early films are great, but I just don't feel that he's... I feel like he's kind of become lazy. I feel like ever since like Gladiator kind of really like just became such an iconic role for him.
He's coasted.
He just kind of coasts after that. It's kind of like Johnny Depp, one of the more brilliant actors in Hollywood. But it seems right about the turn of the century, the dude just stopped actually trying, and everything he does now is just the same cartoonish bullshit. It's like it's unfortunate, And I think like with Russell Crowe, I watched some of his early movies. I just watched I just blanked on the name of it. L.A. Confidential recently, which is one of his early films, and he does incredible in that. And I was just like, "Shit, maybe
what happened?"
It's like shit. Maybe I actually don't really hate Russell Crowe altogether. It's just I don't really like late Russell Crowe. And
you don't like modern Russell Crowe. You like 90s, early 2000s Russell Crowe.
Yeah. Give me that early age, like that early era of him, and he does pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, and maybe even then, if you took a time machine and took the him from the time from L.A. Confidential, put that as Roland. Okay, we could talk, but the Russell Crowe that we have now, that was never going to work for me. But no, so Jennifer, I could definitely see what you're saying with Flag for sure. I could see that, and I would just say that in general, I think the reason I wasn't too hung up on that is just because with Flag being so different everywhere, I'm not even like necessarily bummed that he was like the way he was in this movie, because I just see that as just another face of his.
Yeah,
and then that potentially even in the next movie, he could be a totally different kind of act. He could be a completely different style.
And what do you think? I think we've talked about this before. I think maybe it was last week that we talked about this. Was where was I going with this thought? There was something with Flag. It was he took the gloves off this round. Was kind of the thing, is that in the Dark Tower books, again, which the movie again is a sequel.
Yeah,
he's had enough. You know what? I've tried playing the behind the scenes. I've tried playing it coy. I've tried being the little, Mr. Fix-It for the Crimson King. You know what? Screw it. Gloves are off rolling. Let's go.
Yeah.
And that's where we had something that happened in the movie that didn't happen in previous cycles. Walter kills his father.
Yeah.
Right in front of him.
Yeah.
Murders him. Just stop breathing. Boom. Yeah. Roland's dad.
Bookwise, we still don't know what happened to his dad.
No.
That was never explained. So that could easily be, because that is technically outside the cycles. That would have been prior to the cycles.
Yep.
So that could very well be, I mean, in my mind, especially if the movie is canon, that is the way that Stephen Deshane died.
Yeah.
And next time I read the books and we hear about Stephen Deshane,
well, next cycle he dies.
That's where
Flag kills him.
Yeah, we know how he died.
Yeah.
Like, we always kind of knew how, like, Alan and Cuthbert, we kind of get some allusions to their death. But,
Alan was killed by their own sentry.
Fire.
Yep,
Yeah.
They didn't realize that he had gone out or something like that. And then Cuthbert got killed by Flag.
Yeah.
Arrow to the eye.
Yeah. Indeed. So, yeah, it's definitely interesting. But, yeah, that's why I never really was too hard on Matthew, apart from the whole accent thing that still bothers me, was just because I just feel that, like, it's just Flag's different personality, and like just his, like Peter mentioned, it's his different tactics and his different cycle, because I feel that he's cognizant of the cycles and he knows that he's repeating himself. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they go any further. I would love to see a director just tell Matthew, like, what you did in the last one, throw it out the window. I want you to do something completely different because that's what Flag does.
Let's be someone else.
Flag's a chameleon. Flag changes. Flag is always different. Flag.
And she kind of makes that point, doesn't she?
She does.
About how
she does.
the difference between the Stand and the Eye of the Dragon and everything.
And that's why I'd love to see like someone that knows the books enough to just tell Matthew McConaughey like, hey, like this is a role that this kind of guy, he changes all the time. So I want you to play something completely different.
And Jennifer, there's one thing also I wanted to bring up about Flag and his death in the books. I can't remember if it was you. I know it wasn't me. It might have been a listener actually. Was brought up the point that the reason why we switched, basically Flag was killed to introduce Mordred. The horribleness and the potential threat that Mordred is. Basically, it was. I really think it was a listener. I don't think this was you, but correct me if I'm wrong. Was Flag was no match for Roland. In the way Stephen King wrote him in the first 6 books, he was no match for Roland. He couldn't do anything to Roland.
But then again, Roland couldn't do anything to him.
Right. But the whole point was Flag couldn't do anything to Roland. Is the problem, and Roland couldn't do anything to him. Well, Roland's goal isn't to stop Flag; it's to get to the tower.
Yeah.
In the book, Flag needed to stop Roland. That was if you take Roland A, Flag B, and teams A and B. Team's A goal was not to stop Team B. Team B was supposed to stop Team A, kind of thing, is what I'm saying. So I really think it was a listener, and this may be like the early days of the podcast, when it was when we had the discussion on whether or not Mordred was even necessary. A listener chimed in, and I cannot remember who it was, and said, well, we need Mordred because Flag's not a big enough threat to him. He can't do him. He can't kill him. And they even kind of show that in the film. My magics don't work on you, kind of thing. So that's where I was the same way. I thought Flag was killed. That's the death of Randall Flag? Yeah. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
He gets eaten by a spider? Like that's it. And then I think it was when that listener chimed in and said, well, we had to have something more dangerous to face Roland. I was like, okay, so it's kind of like a boss upgrade kind of thing, and like if you do like a video games kind of thinking, okay, well, we had this bad guy for the first part of the video game, well, now let's up the ante.
But I think the big thing with us Flag fans though is that Mordred never really panned out.
No, he never. That's where I was going with this, is that he never actually became that. Oh my gosh, this thing is terrifying.
Yeah,
especially since
I think that's
it's kind of weird because Stephen King actually kind of makes us feel a little bit sorry for him. And there's the one scene where he's sitting there, freezing. Oh, they have fire, and I'm sick, and I'm cold, and oh, poor me.
Yeah. So I think that, I could definitely see what you're saying there, Jennifer, about
absolutely.
Flag for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, Team Flag, # Team Flag.
And even me, who knows Flag is the bad guy, and and everything like that, I still think that that's the way he goes. Man, Eddie should have put a bullet in his head. Then again, every bad guy should get a bullet from Eddie, but that's just the way I think. So.
Oh man, I don't know about that, sir. I don't think Eddie.
No, see, Flag's so worried about Roland, he's focused on Roland, and then Eddie's just almost like the Matrix. Dodge this, bam.
or you can make it Jake, but
that would be fitting very much right now.
But especially if he did something prior to that to really piss off Jake.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. If in the sequels of the film,
I was just talking in the context of the books.
Yeah,
though.
that would.
Poor Oi.
Oh, hey, no. Why? See? Why do you do that? That really? How do you not see that makes us think that you hate Oi?
What better way to make Jake so fired up and go into a murderous rage?
Kill his mom.
Than see him kill Oi.
Kill his mom.
Well, in the books, I don't think he was as close to his mom. I never felt like.
No, but we're talking, new cycle.
I'm just talking in the context.
Oh,
of
if we were fixing the book,
okay. If you're changing that up to where someone have the Roland's kind of son kill Flag, but have it be because his.
You killed my dog.
Oh, # Team Flag. All right.
# Flag is terrible.
And she goes on, how did you like Tom Taylor's Jake? Again, he was quite good. And I love to hear that too. I'm because there was those early rumors a week or so before the movie came out that Sony was trying as hard as they could to cover up Jake as much as they could because Tom Taylor didn't do a good job. And it's just I don't know if they reduced his role, but it doesn't seem like it.
I really hope they didn't
because nothing. Everything I saw in the movie, he looked great. So it's why would they reduce a role for this kid? And then, honestly, he had such a big part of the movie. There's no way in my mind they could have reduced his role because there's no way that he could have had that much more to do in the movie that he already had. So yeah, I don't buy any of those rumors. Then she goes on, number 6, how did the film impact your view of the books, especially that it takes place after the book cycle? She says it doesn't. Presuming, given the reactions, that this is the end of it, I'll pretend that it doesn't exist and continue to love the story. Then number 7, do you feel the 9 years of developmental hell and decades prior paid off? And she says, I think it was a result. I think it resulted in the movie that we saw. And I think that's definitely true, and especially with what we just read here from the book a little bit ago. Yeah. That, like, the different takes that they were trying to come up with were so big that studios just couldn't get behind it, that you really had to trim it down and come down to this more centered, small, character-driven movie than...
How great would it be if they opened up with Shardik in the next movie? Like, if they took that movie and made it next, dude, this series would take off. If it's done right, there's like almost no one that can.
I don't know if you can really start with Shardik though. I mean, you don't even have the rest of the content.
What if we do flashbacks?
Yeah, do something that's like not as linear, maybe.
Yeah, what if you do a classic Stephen King story?
I think I don't think you'd want to do that though, because if you already have audiences that aren't super sold because the first movie wasn't like a massive hit, I really don't think you want to do something too experimental. I think you'd want to go pretty much straight through as you could. Then she goes number 8. She says, which is, are you excited to see more films and TV shows? She says, from the same studio. I'm not excited. I'll probably watch it to see if they can recover. Number 9. Let's see. Yeah, I pointed. That's the one I pointed out. She didn't answer because that's the one I said was a stupid question. Number 10. Did you feel that the film fit into the established Dark Tower mythology? And she says, and here is where the problem is. It didn't. Roland is the main character of the series. Needs to be the main character of any cycle. Jake is our insight character, the one that is being introduced to the world, so that it could be introduced to us. He is not and should not be the main character. I don't have a particular problem with giving him a power up. Series needs the entire group, making Jake strong enough to just randomly kill the demon at Dutch Hill House without having any idea how to control. The use of his powers makes the rest of the quartet his supporting characters, which is definitely an interesting thought. If he is that powerful, then what does he need the rest of them for? And it's definitely interesting. I can occasionally enjoy a story with a superpowered kid, and then she says, or just a really precarious one, saving the world. But I'm old enough that I usually rather watch adults with adult motivations and adult concerns. Then she goes on and says, as I said, Roland should be the main character, but even as a supporting character, he's all wrong. I could see a cycle where he has abandoned the quest for the tower, maybe, but then he should be off doing something else and doing it well. Regardless, the change needs to have happened at or before the recycle point. According to the story that they just told us, Roland gave up on the tower at Jericho Hill, but we know that when he was put back in the cycles, he was already he was already chasing the men in black across the desert. Years after Jericho Hill, you can't change what happened before that point of the history, so that's not part of the cycle, which I think I would actually agree with. That's what we've said for a long time.
Yeah.
So I mean, I would say though, my question would be: does the film portray the fact that he gives up on the tower at that point though? What would you think? Because I don't know if I necessarily read it that way. Just because we saw that, I don't know if that necessarily
No, I think the death of his father, the murder of his father, is where the breaking point.
You think so?
Oh, okay, yeah, because his rage at Walter and everything like that.
Yeah,
I think that's the breaking point where he, you know what, screw the tower, I got to kill this guy.
I just interpreted it differently, especially like in the Manny Village when they are talking about fighting the darkness and stuff, and he kind of almost plays out the fact of like, if you've been out in the world and seen how much darkness there is, you realize that's a hopeless fight. And that almost
but he talks about the battle that they lost. That's Jericho Hill. That's the thing, is that since Jericho Hill, he hasn't been a gunslinger. He hasn't been out there helping people and everything like that. He's been trying to find Walter since then.
I don't feel that he was helping people in the books prior to. I mean, because even early on, like we just talked about with Toll and stuff, he's not helping people. He's out for his own thing.
No, that's what I'm saying, is that if we're looking at the quest for the tower versus the quest for vengeance, Roland's the same character. He's going to treat people the same way. All we're saying is that instead of the tower obsession, he has an obsession with killing Walter. But if you trace it back, what could have happened in between Stephen's death and the movie that could have made him forsake the tower and go after Walter? No, it's Stephen's death that triggered it.
All right, yeah, I guess I just didn't interpret it that way. She goes on and says, if they had at least showed Roland specifically picking up the horn before he came to his father, I could have believed that the tower went back and changed this moment in the cycle. And then
What if he got the tower? What if he got the horn from his dad?
Yeah, I mean, but I see what she's saying.
No,
Though,
yeah, they need to show us. But again, that's something for book fans. Like if a regular movie, like my wife, like we talked about this earlier, if we show a scene where he's on the battlefield and he quickly grabs that horn and runs to his father, everyone's going to be like, well, what's the point of the horn? That never played off in the movie.
Yeah.
Maybe what we should see in the sequel is a flashback of that, showing him grab the horn and have the horn played up in the second movie. A little bit more mythology explained.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. That's where what they talked about as well in the interviews, is that the second movie is going to be, the plan is to introduce Eddie, Susanna, and Oi, and then we're also supposed to be having more mythology and more midworld in the sequels.
Yeah.
So maybe we get that explained in the sequels. And again, this goes back to my point last week. It's like let's give it a little bit of freedom here.
Yeah.
You know,
but
this isn't the whole story. But it's one part.
But I do see what she's saying.
Oh,
though,
yeah.
Yeah. But I would say that the reason I didn't necessarily have the same complaint as her is because I didn't interpret that he gave up on the tower at the death of his father, especially because his father said, no, so long as you stand, the tower's okay. Like the tower isn't doomed or like whatever. So I feel that he would have continued on with his quest to like save the tower further. In my mind, that's how I interpreted it. But then at some point, just and taking that scene from the Manny is that's why I brought that up, is because I think that at a certain point, when you go around this this freaking wasteland, eventually comes to a point where you realize like this isn't worth it. Like,
well,
and then your motivation shifts. It's like, well, what's left? Well, fucking Walter's still out there. I'm going after that motherfucker. That's how I interpreted it. So,
well, no, but in the same conversation, you're missing a point of that conversation that's important. Is Roland says, "We fought the war, we lost." And that's the point. What he's saying is like that's where he gave up. And he makes that point is that the war was fought, the battle was lost, we lost. At that point, why would he continue doing the tower when he's going after Walter? I mean, Walter even says it. Last time I tracked him, he was wandering the Mohane. Okay, well, what darkness is he gonna encounter in the middle of a freaking massive desert? Not much. I mean, he may encounter Tull and Brown. That's what we're talking about here, right? But I think that the moment Steven dies, the Dark Tower quest stops. At that point, it's a quest for revenge.
Like I said, that's just not the way I had interpreted it, but that's just probably me just taking what I know of the character and the stories and stuff and kind of placing it in my own, I guess, in my own context, because some of that stuff was left a little bit more ambiguous.
It was, for sure.
And then she says, if that happened, okay, I'll take back the criticism about the horn before going to Steven. Oddly, that detail wouldn't have bothered me if they hadn't said that it was a sequel. An adaptation can make changes to the story. A sequel has to honor the original, that the original happened as it did. And she goes on and says, even more importantly, Roland is failing miserably chasing his revenge. Or perhaps they could have at least used some extra time to show that Walter was popping into the desert to plant campfires for him to find, rather than indicate that he was randomly walking around thinking that he might stumble over him. It's cute to have Jake find the embers of Roland's campfire to harken back to Roland finding Walter's campfires. Yeah, I actually noticed that too.
I love that.
I don't think we mentioned that either. So
no.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, because I think we noticed it for sure.
We both kind of just glossed over that part.
But it leaves us nothing to have any idea what the hell Roland was actually doing while Walter was off being evil and trying to bring down the tower. Presumably, he was just wandering aimlessly. Now, I will say that's actually a really good criticism. Like, we need to have some indication that Flag is doing something to string him along in the Mohane Desert. Because if he's not, what the hell is Roland doing? You know? If
the last direction that Flag was going, I mean, at that point, if Flag's not popping in and setting campfires, what's he supposed to do? That would be my question. Is okay. So let's put you in Roland's shoes. Last time you saw Flag was at Tull. Let's say Tull's behind him. Okay. Let's say his campfire is those mountains where in the books it's the way station, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So Tull's behind him. Last time you saw Flag was in Tull. Last time you saw him, he was heading for those mountains.
But I think what
that's
she's
what I'm
saying
saying
is that
that
the movie doesn't even spell any of that stuff out to the point where, as far as the movie's concerned, he's kind of just wandering the desert looking for Flag. But then you show the audience that Flag is pretty much just chilling in his little fucking office with all of his books and doing his thing for beam breakers. So it's just one of those things where it's like there's a disconnect there, and I see what she's saying, to where it's just like, wait a minute, like why is Roland like? Does he have is he given some indication that Flag is? I mean, so it sounds like you're doing the same thing I did at the last conversation. Is you're just inserting stuff from the book to help you.
Well,
fill
no, but
these gaps.
that's my point. My point is the question that I asked. If Flag has a direction if Roland has a direction that Flag went, what else is he supposed to do? What more do you guys need to justify that he's chasing Flag?
To have Flag doing something to make Roland at least think that he's on the trail.
Why does he need to? He doesn't want Roland on his trail. He wants Roland aimlessly wandering the desert. If Flag gives him a direction, even if it's the wrong direction, Roland's going
eventually
somewhere.
He's going to get out of the desert, though. He's not just walking in circles in the desert. He'll eventually get through it.
But that's what you guys are saying, is that he's wandering the desert, looking for Flag, hopelessly, aimlessly, is what the movie is saying.
Yeah, the way the movie portrays it.
That doesn't portray it that way. He's not even in the desert when Jake finds him. He's on the mountains.
Well, yeah, but in the middle of the desert, though, because you end up seeing the shots of him in the desert with with Jake, and then you see him looking over the freaking cliff into the further on the distance. We're like, oh, down there's where this village is at. We need to go.
Which is a forest. It's not the desert. It's the mountains. Jake doesn't find Roland in the desert. That's a misconception. He doesn't find him in the desert. Jake crosses the desert to get to Roland, whose campfire is in the mountains. Flag doesn't even have accurate info.
I see what she's saying. I think that was they kind of missed that in the movie, because it's one of those things that it's like you've taken out the chasing of the Man in Black, because the Man in Black gives no indication he's ever been anywhere near where Roland's at. So I don't know. It just seems like there's a disconnect there. Like, it would have been cool to have a scene where you even just show him setting a campfire and then going through a freaking portal, and just even someone out, what the hell are you doing? Just stringing him along, just something, just to where it's just okay, so yeah, he's just chasing those campfires, and what is it in the books that says it might just be a freaking giant word, or is it a smiley, where Roland is wondering what do the campfires are they making a shape from, if you looked at it from the heavens?
I don't remember that
of Walter's campfires. I think he wonders about could they? He wonders if they would even be spelling something or something from above, because he always just finds these random campfires and he's never seeing fire. It's always just these, because he's always so far behind that he can't see the fire itself like Jake does in the movie. But he wonders, if you were like an eagle, would you be seeing these different spots, and would it spell something out even? Because he doesn't know. It's so random. But yeah, no, I just think it would be, I see what she's saying. It just, I wish there was a little bit more connection to the opening line is all. And I don't know, it just doesn't, it feels a little bit disconnected to me. But she goes on and says, then it turns out that he had his honor shot off, apparently at Jericho Hill, given that that's when they told us that the character change happened, and he asked, using his status as a gunslinger, an entire village to put themselves in danger so that he could chase not the white, but vengeance. He was hardly a good diplomat or polite in that village. He was surly and only cared about what he wanted. Even when he was the most intent on the tower, Roland was a better man than this. It turned out that they would have been attacked anyway, I think, but Roland knew that turning on that portal would bring retaliation, and he didn't care. Roland may no longer be a gunslinger, but he would still treat people that are treating him as a gunslinger better than this. Also, giving up the search for the tower made him no longer a gunslinger. Most gunslingers, I thought it was a myth. Being a gunslinger is about protecting people. It's about justice. It's not about being a guardian of the tower that you don't know, or that you don't know how to locate. So that's actually an interesting topic too. But yeah, no, I think that I could see that, because I do feel that there was a little bit of me that was weirded out by that whole element of once they turn on the portal, everyone's going to know that they have a portal, and that might bring down some, and it doesn't seem like Roland cares. That did seem a little bit, that felt Toll to me. That's why I equated that too, is it's just that's Toll. He doesn't give a damn. He doesn't care that, I don't think he ever has a second thought that he's killing that entire town, even though they're probably under the spell of Flag. He doesn't care. He just, I don't know. I guess I don't see that same disconnect from the early book. I think that Roland again redeems himself a little bit during the course of the books, and he becomes a better man later in the books. So the Roland that we see interacting with the folks at the Palaver and Sturgis is a far different Roland than is it Tull or with Brown or whatever. So I guess I don't see that, but I do see that idea of him just wanting to turn the thing, regardless of the fact that it's probably going to bring their utter destruction. I found that kind of weird for Roland, even just because it's just
Well,
man, like,
but doesn't Roland and Jake plan on coming back?
I don't know.
Isn't that why the leader tells them the number, and that's where we get the 1408 Easter egg? Remember that, or else you
Possibly,
can't come back.
It would be interesting, even if he
isn't that where they go back?
Even if he just told him, like, okay, once we're done, we'll be back through. If someone is to come, I'll be able to help you. Or just a quick throwaway line would have helped me a little bit, because there was just part of me that's like, man, you're kind of an asshole, man. Like, I mean, I get you have to go where you have to go, but at the same time, like, this is kind of a poor, rundown village, and like they've obviously gone to great lengths to make sure that this thing doesn't get used, because that's like a giant flare in the middle of a desert, and they don't want to do that. And then, of course, we actually get the payoff of that of seeing Flag show up there and kill everyone, which makes it even more like, ugh. It makes it rough a little bit. But yeah, I just maybe play it off as like being a little bit more tallish Roland. But yeah, I think that it's definitely a tough one to grasp a little bit. And then she says they weren't doing the gunslinger, so they tried to bring in items from later books. The problem is that they don't make sense at this point in the story, so they can't do them right. In the end, they end up merely referring to something that is awesome in the books, not doing them justice, and all the same time burning them off so that they can't be done properly later. The Dutch Hill house is a perfect example. In the book, Dutch Hill is the climax of the quartets working together across worlds and time to save each other. They all have to do something in order to save Jake and Roland from the horror that is affecting them both. In the movie, Jake has nothing but his dreams, and only help that he needs is an online comment. It would have been nice if later in the movies it would have turned out at least to be a child Eddie, which is what you said.
Oh yes.
But what time frame are they going to put him in? That they can pull him as an adult if he's a kid in 2017. Regardless, that would have been a Easter egg. It wouldn't have been it wouldn't be a desperate group effort to save Jake. So, and I get what she's saying here. Like, whereas, like, yeah, because what I guess in terms of just like the Dutch Hill, I guess I've never really even thought about Dutch Hill in that same context of the fact that it is really this huge culmination for the quartet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess it makes sense totally, but I guess I've never thought of it in that paradigm before. But now that she mentions that, it really is like, I mean, that's weighing on Eddie the whole time as he's carving the key and stuff like that. Like, I mean, it defines Susanna's character, her actions during that define the rest of her character.
And then you also find out that Detta's still there and everything, and that she can call upon her when she needs her.
Yeah, so like, I guess I've never really thought about that, but yeah, that's a really good point, Jennifer. I have never considered the fact that like potentially you've taken away a really massive thing for all the characters. I mean, and again, maybe that goes back to the whole Mordred thing. Is Mordred going to even be in these movies? Like,
yeah,
I don't know. Like, that's interesting. I've never thought about that. So yeah, thanks, Jennifer. That's a really great thought. And I think we agree. I don't think that anyone's necessarily overly defensive of that the Dutch Hill was done right. I think it was thrown in there as kind of just some fan service, but I think most of us fans would have just been like, we would have waited. We would have been okay to wait and see that one in a later movie that maybe had a bigger budget and could have done like a lot more with it. Like, it would have been really cool to see that be a 10-15 minute scene. Just, even have him running through the house as it's like coming after him and stuff, and then before it finally gets him, and then you got whatever else going on the other side. Like, I don't know. That would have been interesting. And then she says they shut down at least one of the breakers. If one of them is still up and running, they've made it clear that you can, by following the damn beam across the sky, that the tower is directly under attack. So if this continues, they should already know what is happening and how the tower is in danger. If they know that the tower is in danger but don't know how, they've burned out the breakers and have come up with something else. In that case, they didn't even save any of the damn kids. Hell, I think Roland blew them all up. I guess that's an interesting thought too. I never thought about is the rest of the kids that are there. I guess we don't even really get like a.
Well, it doesn't blow up; it collapses on itself. So I thought that too on my first watch. I was like, "Damn, Roland just killed all those kids." But on the second, and when you go see it this weekend, watch it. When Roland shoots it, it doesn't exactly like look like an explosion spreading
more
out.
Of an implosion.
It's more of a. He blew up something in the structure, and now it's just collapsing on itself.
Okay, all right.
So if you look at where those kids were situated back in those houses, yeah, probably some of them got hurt, maybe even killed, but most of them are probably okay, but trapped in Midworld.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, and then she goes on and says they killed, and then she puts that in quotes, Flag. Okay, I just want to get in the line that I said to my mom as they were walking out. Well, if they're going to kill off Flag, at least they didn't have him eaten by a baby. But yeah, Jennifer, don't worry. Flag is not dead.
cue the ominous whistle at the end of the credits.
Yeah, there's the whistle at the end of the credits, and I think even Nikolai said in an interview that he felt that the underplayed way that he dies should be enough of an indicator to watchers that isn't a final death. That a character as big as Flag isn't going to die in such an unceremonious way. And then we get into the whole conspiracy theory we talked about last time, that we don't see Flag shot this side of the portal, so it could very well be that someone else is wearing a face to look like him.
Well, he doesn't get shot in the head this side of the portal.
The quote kill shot wasn't on the portal, so that could very well be that he goes through after being shot. Yeah, he might be shot and wounded, but then...
Well, no, again, this is back to what we talked about last week. He's shot on this side of the portal and falls through afterwards.
Yeah.
He's not standing on the other side of the portal and gets shot in the head. He's on the Keystone Earth side, gets shot in the head, and falls through the portal.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's
so that's where I think that the theory falls apart, is that if we're trying to say that, you know, Flag was driven back by the first couple shots into the portal, and then he switches with the Taheen quickly after being shot several times, and then that Taheen gets shot in the head.
Or who's to say he even gets shot in the head? Who's to say Flag didn't put that shot there? He does keep that bullet. Uses his magic, uses that bullet to throw in the Taheen's head, puts the body there after he's been shot a few times, flees. So when Roland comes through, he sees the Taheen with the bullet hole.
Roland never goes through.
Well, I guess that's true. He never goes even.
No, that's what I'm saying, is Roland never even gets a chance to inspect the body. That's why I think that the more likely one is where he used some sort of magic to protect himself from Roland's bullets, which is why he kept the one when he killed Steven. He kept that bullet, cast a spell where even if I get hit with one of the, 7 of these, I'm going to be okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think that's where it's going to be. I would love to see...
They definitely have their options open. There's plenty of options.
I would love to see Flag just wake up in the ruins there of Agosiento and just be like, I'm coming for you.
Or have him wake up on a beach.
Surrounded by natives.
And then she goes on number 11. Did this make you want to jump back and read the books again? Not particularly, but I just reread most of them not that long ago. I really should finish book 7. At least I wouldn't have to reread Flag's death. I took my mom to see this, and she mentioned that she was intending on rereading it fairly soon, but that's mostly because she didn't remember most of it. Number 12, did the critics, rumors, negativity impact your enjoyment of the film? Everything affects how we react to things. It certainly made me apprehensive beforehand. My problem with the story are different than the few things I had read beforehand, though. I don't think that the story was generic exactly. I saw someone say that they didn't expect Roland to smile so much, which doesn't actually make any sense with the movie. So yeah, I don't know. We haven't had a lot of people that were overly impacted by reviews. I think some people have like recalibrated their expectations before going in or whatever. But I don't think there's a lot of people. We
talked about it last time. We both went in with that kind of like, okay, here we go. Steel yourself. Be ready for that moment where it's cringeworthy and wait, the movie's over. It never happened.
Yeah. Exactly. Number 13, a favorite line, Gunslinger's Oath at the training session with Jake. That's definitely a popular one. Number 14, any moment give you chills, perhaps when they flash back to Jericho Hill. And I thought that they might actually tell us that story. Otherwise, I don't think so. Number 15, how did you like the score? It didn't take me out of the movie, which is what I want from a score. Did South Africa feel like Midworld? Sure. Favorite Easter egg? Not my thing. I didn't catch most of them. Number 18, did elements of the other books bother you? Not that there were elements from other books, but they couldn't be given justice. They couldn't be given justice placed in the spot that they were, and it made it impossible to use them properly. So kind of what she's talking about before, that taking stuff from the other books doesn't really pan out because they weren't able to give the gravitas that those things could have played out in their own movies. And then. Let's see. And then she jumps down to... yeah. Number 19, did Nikolai remember the face of his father, as King said? She says, I don't think his honor was at stake. It was a movie. Yeah, a little bit more straight... a little bit less dark towers. Yeah, a little bit more literal, for sure. But yeah, no. I guess we only asked it that way just because of Stephen King and the way that he said it. Then she goes on the last little bit here. She says, as a side note, just to make up for not bothering to answer question number 9, I'm so glad that you both enjoyed the movie. I'm not trying to convince anyone that the movie wasn't good as they thought. I think I'm mostly trying to understand my thoughts on it in the end. I may just be one of those jerks who wants the author's vision for my story, and this couldn't have made me happy. I don't think that's the case, but but I do know that the little details, and then in parentheses, how could Roland have changed his focus before the cycle reset, drive me nuts. And I think that's kind of where we've talked so much about like that whole like element of like how the whole thing's structured. And I guess like she's the one that really points it out here, but that kind of fits into what our whole pattern is. You can't really change anything too much outside of the loop. And, you know, beyond
where's that explained?
What?
That you can't change things before the loop, because if we're going off of canon, yes, you can. How do you explain Roland having the horn at the end of book 7?
Well, I think that we've always felt that, like...
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, is maybe we have a misconception that you can't change things before the loop. That's what I'm saying, is that if we can... Okay, so here's my question then. And then Wizard and Glass should be a straight adaptation, correct? Because if we can't change anything before the loop... Wizard and Glass TV show should be a straight adaptation.
Totally, absolutely.
Okay.
And I think Nikolai's even said that would be a far more direct adaptation.
Okay. What if they change something there?
I think it'd be a mistake.
Okay. So you're saying that if they don't adapt it straight up, it's going to be bad.
No, it would just be a mistake.
It's a mistake.
No, whatever change they make would be a mistake because...
But what if the misconception is on our part saying that the cycle starts when he's back in the desert?
No, that's not. No, that's in the book.
No, it's not.
That's the first line is...
The man in black fled across the desert and the gunslinger followed is not... Is it?
Yeah.
Because then how do you explain the horn?
Divine intervention.
We're just saying divine intervention, but okay, if they're this is something I brought up before too. If they're able to go back and get the horn, why aren't they able to go back and change other things as well?
Because I don't think that he's doing it.
You're making it so like the desert is the start point and there's a dam there that no one can get past, but somehow the horn comes through. Yeah,
because that's where the cycle goes back to.
Says who? That's what
the book.
That's my point.
Says the book.
But the horn disproves that.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't.
The horn is before that. Yes. Is the horn before that?
It doesn't matter. Like I said,
is the horn before that?
That's why we said it's divine intervention.
You're throwing that into the divine intervention thing, but I'm saying
because that's the only explanation.
No, I'm saying this blows a hole in the fact that you're just saying no. You're not even giving it any thought.
Yeah.
What if there is the ability to go back? Because okay, if the movie is canon, then we do see things change. Before
what?
Stephen wasn't killed at Jericho Hill.
Roland
was smuggled out at the end of the battle after Cuthbert fell and the horn fell with him.
We don't know that his father wasn't killed there.
Yes, we do. He was killed before the Battle of Jericho Hill. It says it in the books.
Where?
It does.
I don't remember him. I don't remember ever addressing his father in the books.
His father was killed before. His father was not at the Battle of Jericho Hill.
I don't remember.
I guarantee. I know that for a fact.
I don't remember it saying that.
Also, the horn is in Roland's pack with his father.
Yeah,
at Jericho Hill,
which he would have picked it up right prior to that with where he would have been with Cuthbert. Cuthbert was one blowing the horn,
right?
So he would have picked that up as he was sitting there by dying Cuthbert, and then he would have picked up that horn, and then and then he would have went and hooked up with his dad, and then had that battle with Walter. That would have been the timeline of it. I think the only reason they didn't do anything with like maybe showing Cuthbert is because that's probably going overboard with casting, with like having to like cast and potentially pigeonhole yourself, because of course the only thing we've talked about is the only possibility I think they might have for changing book 4 is age wise, because of the whole stuff with Susan. It might be a little bit better to have him be like, 17 to 18, like that high school age versus 14 that he was in the books.
Right.
So beyond that, because if they make that, I mean, I guess that would still be enough of an age difference, but it might make it better to where you can not worry about casting Cuthbert until later when you actually want to cast him full bore. And then she goes, also, I apologize now for any typos. As I was trying to edit, I keep coming up with new things that annoyed me, so I stopped editing. Thanks to you both for your podcast. I enjoyed listening to both of you. Of the podcasts that I listened to that focus on King, you've so far been the most positive on this movie. It made me glad to hear someone point out that the points that were done well, and just to hear someone enthusiastic about it. Even all the complaints that I've listed above, it's not an awful movie, and I've been a little annoyed that people are indicating that there is nothing worthwhile in it. I will go back to the theater to see it again, but I'll watch it once it's available. Or no, I won't go back to the theater to see it again, but I will watch it once it's available on streaming. Maybe that time, all of the things that I really like about it will stand out instead. And yeah, I think that thank you, Jennifer, for your email. That's definitely some good topics of conversation, and it's good definitely to hear everyone's point of view. I think we made it pretty clear on our episode right before the movie came out that we wanted to hear from everyone, even if you guys disagreed with us, even if we ended up hating the movie and you all loved it, or if we loved it and you guys hated it. We wanted everyone to be able to chime in. We don't want it to be a one-sided conversation. That's never what we want to have with our content here.
Right.
So thank you for your email, Jennifer. Definitely appreciate it, and thank you for the awesome thoughts. Looks like I always love it when I get people that think about it as deep as we do, because there's just times where I just wonder, like, man, are we just like freaks sometimes? Because we like overanalyze and debate and talk about the most minute things, and like for everything. I mean, we do it with Star Wars, Game of Thrones, like you name it, and it's just fun to see other people involved in it. We've been doing it with Dark Tower as well for years as well. That's we've been doing the podcast for 10 years now. We just put mics in front of us for the first time like 2 years ago. Then it looks like we got some more new people in the chat here. Cody has joined us and full volume Dark Tower from my cubicle. Awesome, Cody, good to have you here. And then hi, I'm Real. Hey guys, glad to catch you on the stream. Yeah, good to have you here with us. Good to have you guys here on this nice Friday afternoon. And we're just going through some emails, just doing another off week show, just because we have a lot of emails to get through and just some awesome movie conversations to have. Next up is Star from LA.
Okay.
And Star says, hi guys. So excited to have just found your podcast. I've been listening to your review of the film, which I just saw last night, and I'm really enjoying your take on it. The film has completely renewed my obsession, and I'm rereading the series now. I'm a huge fan. It's my favorite book series of all time, and I've been freaking out about the movie for so long. Hoping not to hate it, absolutely did not. Yay. I'm just writing to comment on a reference I haven't heard anyone else comment on, but maybe they have and I missed it. But it's a quick throwaway line of Walter's, and it amused me because it's a nod to the casting of Idris Elba as Roland, and now he's against type, but still nailed it because Walter calls him tall, dark, and handsome. This immediately reminded me of Susanna's way of calling Roland old, long, tall, and ugly. We actually mentioned that last episode, which I think you sent this email before last episode. So it's definitely a great line for sure. I can't wait to go see it again tomorrow, just to because I'll really be able to just indulge in every little thing and probably remember a lot more about it, just because every time I'm able to remember more and just smile about more. But yeah, that was definitely a good line for sure. And then she says I just appreciated this on a deep fan level because one of the writers had a really comic sense of irony. Did anyone else notice this? Yeah, absolutely. We noticed it, thought it was awesome, and it definitely just felt Dark Tower. It just felt right out of the books for sure. Then that's it, guys. Love the podcast. Keeps doing what you're doing. Signed Star in LA. And I'm only assuming that you're a female. Because I've only known one Star in my life, and it was a female. So
I've known two, and they're both females.
Okay.
So.
All right. Okay. All right. So yeah, thank you, Star. And also, I got to at least point out that the sign off there isn't spelled out. It's actually like an emoji star. Oh, I can't wait till Christmas when the Emoji Movie comes out. You're so getting a copy.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. You want to know the worst thing? My daughter loves Happy Meals, right?
They have emoji ones?
They had emoji toys.
Did you tell them I want another toy? Tell them to look behind the counter to find some 13-year-old toy that's been sitting back there for ages.
I didn't realize that till we got home because I just stopped at the drive-thru. I mean, this was a couple weeks ago, and we got home and she pulled out it's just a stupid smiley emoji, and I was like, that better not. And it was from the movie. I was like, there's an emoji toy in my house.
So now what you got to do is get some of the Dark Tower Funkos and then trade her out. Emoji disappears and Dark Tower character comes back, or maybe
if she's gonna have anything, she's gonna have the real action figures, not the Funko Pop ones.
Yeah,
like the full scale ones and everything.
Yeah, those. I don't know if those are out yet. I think those come out a little bit later. But or you can even just do something Star Wars. Just get her little R2D2. She'll never miss the emoji.
Oh, if she's gonna do Star Wars, she's gonna go BB-8. She loves BB-8.
Yeah. All right, so that is it from Star, and thank you, Star, for emailing. And the next one is Ryan from California. And I believe he emailed us on the last
episode. This is his second one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he says, hi, Tad and Peter.
Hi.
It's Ryan from California again, here to give my thoughts on the movie. I went to see it with my buddy, who was also a fellow fan, on Friday night, the 4th. It was a really fun time. I couldn't believe that we were finally seeing Roland and Jake on the screen after all these years. Now, I don't know why you left out Flag there, but I'll forgive you this time.
Because the good guys of the film, and the books, and the comics, and every other story that Flag's ever involved in.
Always be smirching him, man, every time.
It's not besmirching if it's the truth.
It's debatable.
He's a bad guy, Ted. Just accept it.
When I first read the series, I predicted that we would see a movie in 15 years from the time that I first got into the books. Side note, remember Kingdom Hospital? That show had a Dark Tower reference that I went nuts over. Nozzle Baby. That's interesting. I didn't know that.
What?
The Kingdom Hospital, there's that TV show, came out 10, 15 years ago.
Never heard of it.
No, it was a Stephen King
is it?
TV thing. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, and then they got Ryan in the chat. Different Ryan from California from the last show, which was me last time.
So we got multiple Ryans. Oh, that's right.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
So this is a different Ryan.
Okay. Sorry, Ryan.
Yeah.
Sorry, this Ryan, not that Ryan. Is that confusing enough?
Sorry, all Ryans.
Sorry, all Ryans. There we go. Cry your pardon.
And then he goes on and says, anyway, I was more or less right. Let's see. Oh yeah, probably about the timeline. Overall, my score for the film is 6 out of 10 or 7 out of 10. I love the performance. Idris Elba was everything I'd hoped for. He was my favorite part. He really became Roland when he gets to New York. Love the hospital scene. Ha ha ha. And I think honestly, I think we could all probably pretty much agree that was probably the one that stole the show in a lot of ways. Is that hospital scene? Yeah, that was just great.
That and the if you include the bus on with that right there is the best.
Yeah,
that fish out of water. That the animals still talk in your world.
Yeah, just that, and like
the way
the way he talks to the doctor is just really funny. I
love that he looks to Jake.
Yeah,
like no, I've been on Keystone Hurt the whole time.
Yeah. He goes on here and says, I enjoy the Manny Village raid scene. How was very weak but able to or how he was very weak but still able to kick ass. And I totally agree. I actually really like that because it hides the real Roland.
Yeah.
Because then you don't see him till the climax of the film.
Yep.
At his full capacity. I really love that. Like as a storytelling mechanism. Like inhibit him early on to where you don't actually see full badass Roland. So that by the time he gets there and it's like, dude, that's a big fucking place with a lot of people in it. And you see like what, 200 different people in there, and like you got SWAT teams and like all these like heavy weapons. You're just like, shit, is he gonna be able to handle this? And then he comes out and starts shooting.
That's where from like my wife's perspective or people who haven't read the books, they're like, oh man, is he gonna be able to handle this? Me, I'm like, you're all so screwed.
Yeah,
you're all dead. I hope you know that. You don't, but I hope you know that you're about to die.
It's understated. I don't know if anybody's even mentioned it yet, but the knife kills are really awesome to me.
Oh yeah, at the beginning
on the rooftop. Yeah, that is really cool because like he takes out the one, and then just the way the camera pans over and reveals he's taking out like 10 other guys on the roof.
No, what's really cool is I don't know if you caught it, is that when he catches that guy's body, he saved it from falling off the building to avoid detection.
Yeah.
Like that's just some super like that dude knows how to kill.
Yeah, like I really liked that a lot, and I mean that goes back into obviously the book makes a pretty big deal about Roland's knife multiple times with like Eddie having to cut the stuff off of him. Eddie shaves with it at one point. Like there's just the knife becomes
he always uses Roland's knife to whittle the key.
To whittle, when he's whittling and stuff too. So it's just one of those things that like it felt to me like even just seeing it was just like, oh cool, that's Roland's knife. Like as dumb as that may sound, just seeing Roland's knife was a cool moment for me. So it was kind of cool to see him using it, especially to take out all those people silently, because a gunslinger would have a hard time in a moment like that where he had to be sneaky with those giant revolvers. Then he goes on and says the Dixie Pig was cool too. The propane explosion was straight out of a video game. Ha ha ha. One beef I had was that to me Roland's gun sounded bad, too quiet and fake sounding to me. Kind of got on my nerves after a while, and I actually never noticed that. But at the same time, as one that really can geek out about the sound effects and stuff, I will say that since I didn't notice it, that might actually say something about it. Because like we were even just talking the other day about Terminator 2 and how I love the sound effect of his shotgun in that movie. because I think they end up using like a cannon and like 3 or 4 different guns merged together to make like the sound of that shotgun. Like I almost feel Roland's guns should have felt the same. They
no,
should have
someone
felt
someone
massive.
brought this up on the first
Did they?
reaction. It was in I think it was in the chat is where it was brought
okay.
up, where they were just like Roland's guns were underwhelming, just not loud enough. And I did notice it the second time round.
Okay,
I did notice that.
I must have missed that in the chat. So
I think the assault rifles were louder than his guns.
yeah, and so the other is just part of me that would have loved to just feel like a gravitas of like you almost feel in the audience the guns like resonating in your chest.
What would have been really cool is the first time that he comes around that pillar and shoots is if we get just a quick shot of someone flinching from the sound. Just like even a guy with a freaking submachine gun, he's like, "Ba-da-da-da-da, and then Roland comes around, boom, and the guy's like, "Holy shit, he's got a cannon!"
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'll have to keep an ear open for that next tomorrow night when I go see it again for my 3rd time on the 19th. Still love that.
That's awesome.
And then he goes on and says, and of course I missed the damn lobstrosity cameo, and then he gives a smile or a frowny emoji. Yeah, I think I saw it, but there's still part of me that's like, did I see it? So I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, you clearly see it. The tank gets busted open and one falls out. I noticed that because he runs past them to get to the propane tank.
I was trying to like really watch close. I think I saw the shadow of it when it was in the tank still, before the tank gets broken. So,
well,
and that's why
he runs past it and they're shooting at him. So it's like the guns are following him. So as he runs past, it hits, and you see one fall out, but there's another tank right next to it. So when he slams into the wall for cover, and then he reaches down and grabs the propane tank, when he stands back up, you get a really good shot of it over his shoulder.
Okay, all right. Then he says, on to Jake. He was pretty great, and that's the truth. But I did miss his bowling skills in the Piper School. Ha, ha, ha. The scenes where he and Roland discover... now, I will say about Jake, too, I'm really glad they added... is it Timmy? Because Timmy gets very little coverage in the book. I think very few fans even remember Timmy from the books, but they actually did get him in there. That's the kid that was there, his friend that lived down the hall or whatever. Because I do remember the one big scene with him is in book 3, where basically he and Timmy have a conversation about, your parents are going to probably lock you up, dude. Like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
Like, you're going nuts, huh? Nuts at 12. Man, that really sucks. Like, I just remember, like just like that thing the kid would do, you know?
Isn't
like,
that the guy? That's the guy at,
not empathizing with them.
at Downtown Lanes, right? It's the bowling kid.
I
think it's. Isn't that where he is?
I just remember their conversation about like the fact that he's losing his mind.
Yeah,
and he's like, "Oh man, that sucks." Like it's just like that normal kid thing where it's like there's no empathy there. It's just like, "Oh man, sucks to be you" type thing.
Oh, you broke your leg. Sucks to be you.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you're going insane. Sucks to be you.
Yeah. The scene where he and Roland discover his mom dead was quite powerful. It was relatable to me because I lost my mom in 2016. Sorry to hear that, Ryan.
Oh yeah.
So I really felt it, and he gives us a frowny emoji, especially when Roland was trying to comfort Jake. Great acting from both of them.
I'm going to let that emoji slide this time. And Ryan, don't think I didn't notice you used an emoji in the chat.
And then he goes on and says, flag, wonderful and underrated performance by Matt. He was like a badass Sith Lord. Loved it. Love the hate scene and the restaurant scene. Ha ha ha. And that hate scene's underrated, but I like that because that's just like exactly the kind of thing Flag would do. Just turn a child.
Oh, going to the restaurant, yeah.
Yeah, it was just like hate, and that girl's like whole demeanor changes. It's like you just know, like
she becomes a little demon child.
Yeah.
That girl scares me.
And like that's just one of those things where like if you think about like the longer effects of that, like that kid will never recover.
That kid's gonna hate her mother for the rest of her. Well, let's solve this problem, Ted. It stops when Flag dies. So when he does die,
which is never,
the spell's gonna lift.
Which is
so.
never.
No, Jennifer already covered. He's gonna get eaten by a baby.
Oh, Flag is eternal, sir.
No, he's not.
And then Ryan goes on and says, now for my negatives. The film was way too short, and the plot just seemed rushed to me. The Midworld section was disappointing, and he says in parentheses, though the Mohaine Desert was gorgeous, great location they found. The Toad Ash creature was cool, but overall Keystone Earth's parts were better. The movie felt more Dark Tower to me in New York than it did in Midworld. So yeah, that's my biggest gripe. Too short and not enough time with the characters. Anyway, guys, expect this film to get Razzies, which possibly with the stupid critics.
Yeah.
It really got me. It really got torn apart. Frowny emoji. Hopefully the TV show does better. I will write you guys again about my ideas for the TV show, so look forward to that. And we definitely will.
Oh yeah.
And I think that'll become like at least as we get back a little bit more book centered. I'm sure that we'll still always have a little bit of some ideas to talk about some TV show ideas. That'll be fun.
We'll see if we can. Are we going to do a dream casting for that, like we did for
maybe.
the movie?
I just wish it was like
I don't know. I guess we should cover that if people haven't gone back and listened to our old episodes. One of the first things Tad and I did when we started this podcast, because that was even before the movie was signed, sealed, and cast and everything, is we did a dream casting.
Yeah.
So I know that we got a lot of flack from some listeners for picking. Both of us picked Scott Eastwood to play Roland.
Yeah.
Like, gosh, get away from Eastwood's family, for crying out loud.
I still wonder about him because I would think that he's going to hit it big soon. And I just I don't know. I don't know. That's kind of what I was hoping. Is like we could get him in Dark Tower and he could have hit it big and then become like this big actor that like was always tied to Dark Tower first. But
Harrison Ford in Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly. Then Ryan goes on and says, also, the portal they went through at the end better have taken them to the beach, Data Chum. Even though the film was kind of average to me, I still want to see it again. It's so surreal seeing these characters on the big screen. Those are my thoughts. Glad you guys are enthusiastic about the movie, where everyone seems to hate it. Anyway, guys, keep up the good work on the show. Can't wait to speculate about the TV show next. And he signs off.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Just a reminder, that portal they went back through is the one they came through. They went back to the Manny Village. It's the same restaurant.
It doesn't mean they can't reprogram it, though.
True, but there's no doorway there. Where they came through a solid wall. There wasn't a panel or anything like that. So if they went back, you'd have to assume that they just went back to the same place. Plus, they don't know any other codes. So that's why the Manny leader told them, hey, remember that code? That's how you get back.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see.
But that's not saying that the next movie can't pick up on a beach.
Yeah.
That's definitely true.
Especially because Tom Taylor's 3 feet taller than he was when he filmed the movie. Oh man, that's awesome.
It's crazy to I have kids, and it's still crazy to me that I go back and look at a picture a year ago and I'm like, wait, my kid was that short?
Yeah.
And then I think about what Tom Taylor did in 6 months. I'm like, oh my gosh, my kids are going to be gigantic.
Yeah, I'm actually interested if the reshoot with the hot dog scene, how much he had grown by that point, and if they had to do some camera magic to make him look as short as he. Because dude,
just have him stand on his knees.
2 or 3 months later is enough for a kid that age to have grown a few inches. And I mean, look at how much different from 6 months from when they filmed originally to when the premiere happened. And, he's looking over at Idris.
He's taller, looking down on Idris. You mean?
Almost. He had a few inches under him still, but yeah, he's definitely grown a little bit. So next up is Claire from Lexington, and I think this is her first time emailing. I'm almost positive. She says, "Hi, all gunslingers." Hi, first time emailer. So there we go.
You need to just stop guessing and just wait till you get into the email.
Because I'm trying to get it in my head because there's so many of them, but I'm still trying to remember.
Where's our map? We talked about this. Where's our map with our pins?
Yeah, map with pins and stuff. I need to get some Dark Tower artwork here for the studio. Got only a few walls I can really put anything on, but
you got a big wall back there. Got a big wall right there. And then there's one. I guess that's it, really.
Yeah.
You've covered the rest of the stuff with your other nerd stuff. Nerd.
And then she goes on, says, new listener here. First want to say how much I love your podcast. I have no one close to geek out over the tower.
Oh, you have my condolences. I'm sorry.
So y'all are the next best thing. Here's my answer to your questions. Yeah, I always love hearing that, though. Because
I do, too, because it makes me, it's really one of the best things about this podcast is I find out that someone doesn't have anyone to talk to. This is a series that you can't keep to yourself.
No.
I mean, even though you showed me the series and I have you to go to, I still want my wife to read it. I still want to talk to her about it. I've still turned other friends onto it and everything like that. Because
it's too big.
Dude, my sister's thinking about reading it.
And there's too much to talk. Like, there's just too much. Like without this podcast, like, I don't know. Like, because even like me and you, if it was just the two of us without the show, we'd get it at the same time. But
eventually we'd only have our two ideas.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have, Claire from Lexington or Star or Jennifer or Ryan or anyone like that giving these tangents that we go off on for freaking 45 minutes.
Any of these Ryans.
Yeah, how many Ryans do we have now? Curse you, Ryans.
Yeah, but you're the same, though, Peter. I mean, that's one of those common names.
No.
Tad, Nessie. Be really shocked if there was ever a Tad listening to the show.
Really can't wait till I get a St. Bernard and have you come over to meet him, Tad.
Oh, don't worry. I'll make sure he's locked in the car on the hot day.
Oh, boo!
Not me. I'm not.
Shame.
I'm not getting in that car. And Claire goes on, starts off, says, number 1 on a scale of 1 to 19, how do you rate the movie? And she says 13. Great casting, special effects, but lacking in the writing a bit. Would see it again. And number two, I think the runtime should have been longer. If there would have been some inkling of depth of the books, something to keep the people wondering, wanting more, to show a glimpse of how powerful Merlin's rainbow is, or to show the significance of the horn, or a peek into Roland's upbringing. Maybe 45 minutes to just touch on the little things to help people who haven't read the books. And I could totally see that. But
45 minutes would have put it at what, 2 hours and 20 minutes total?
No, which is normal anymore. It's
that would not.
blockbuster.
That would not have been too long. Yeah.
No, yeah, that's normal.
I'm on board, Claire. Sign me up.
But it's weird though, because like 2 hours and 20 minutes is okay, but it's weird because 2 hours and 30 minutes starts to feel long, and anything over that, it's weird because it's only 10 minutes. But that's where you really start to like shift in your chair, and then like you start to get like these 3-hour movies, and you're just like, I hate 3-hour movies, dude. I'm getting to the point where I'm just like, dude, stop it. Like, come on, guys, get your editors, edit the movies, keep them under 3 hours, man. Like. I know, like
2 hours and 59 minutes. Approved by 10.
No. 220, I think, is almost the sweet spot. Going any higher than that, it starts to feel a little bit like you're just like, unless the movie's so good that it just sweeps you away. But that
was 3 hours long.
Yeah, exactly. That doesn't happen as much. Then she goes on, number 3. Loved Idris's Roland more than I expected to. Only problem I have is he is a bit too nice. But mayhap that's a sign that he's evolving. I think that's definitely true. It also makes me laugh because one of the previous emailers said that he was kind of a dick.
Yeah,
so
I know.
It's just kind of funny, which is like the perfect Roland thing that like different people interpret him different ways.
He's a dick to some. He's a really nice guy to some. He's a good father figure and everything. It's just he's all over the board.
Yeah, exactly. And then number 4, McConaughey was perfect as Flag. He pulls off evil very well and really encapsulates Flag's twisted sense of humor. Chicken scene definitely comes to mind.
See, I realize something, sir. That's a continuity error.
What?
They say they don't have chickens, but they show chickens at the Manny Village.
Who's to even say that's his world?
It's Midworld.
Doesn't mean it's Flag's world.
That's a cheap way out. It's a continuity error. We don't have chicken where I come from. Yeah, they have chickens. They show them at the Manny Village.
It's easier for him to just say they don't have chickens versus saying they're probably irradiated and you can't eat them.
They have a chicken there.
But you can't. Maybe that's just the point. You can't eat them, and it's a lot easier for him to just say we don't have them versus saying, "Oh, we have them, but they're mutants now, and they're like freaking meat, just like turns into Jello once you cut them open."
Oh God, that's an image
you can't freaking eat. Yeah, like he's keeping it. He's keeping it a little bit nicer for the people he's about.
I'm going to make you a Jello chicken.
Jello chicken. Number 5, Claire says she liked Tom Taylor as Jake, but feel that the other two had a stronger performance. Number 6, the filmmaking made me think that this is many cycles further on from the books. For Roland to cry off the tower, that's going to take a long time. Doesn't impact my view of the books much at all. Number 10.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
Is this the next cycle, or is this down the ways?
Which I could see, because I mean,
well, it has to be, because in the books, when it ends, he says he adjusts his pack, takes a drink from his water thing, even though it's not time, and says the tower's ahead. And then we get the line, the man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed.
So this could just be after a few more cycles, and like because he has a soul that just keeps wearing him down every time, he gets more and more just beaten, where he's just like, I can't do this anymore, man. Like, fuck the tower. I'm just going after Flag, kill that motherfucker, and let the world destroy it.
What if one thing gets changed every time the cycle gets restarted? Even out of cycle stuff gets changed.
Could be. Yeah, I mean, it could be any number of things, or even in cycle, we still haven't. We've touched on a little bit, but there's still that element of like, I think the character types are going to have to be the same because they match his old quartet, but it doesn't necessarily mean even the characters have to be the exact same.
What if Eddie's not addicted to heroin?
Yeah.
What if he's an alcoholic?
Yeah.
What if he's something else?
Well, that's why I like Aaron Paul. If people for some reason think that his age would negate him from being Eddie because he's a little bit older than Eddie is, but it's like, no, I don't know. It could be any number of things.
Aaron Paul is Eddie Dean. Eddie Cantor Dean.
And then number 10, it mostly fits into the Tower mythology. My biggest issue was that they had essentially turned Jake into Danny Torrance and focused the story on him rather than the quest. Also, I'm not thrilled with Roland calling Jake a gunslinger at the end when he can barely hold a gun properly. Now that I actually kind of agree with. The second time I saw it, I remember thinking to myself, wait, why did he call him gunslinger? Like, he's kind of a shitty shot. Like, because in the books, Roland doesn't give that out willy-nilly necessarily.
He calls Eddie and Susanna gunslingers in book 2, right before Shardik. He calls Susanna a gunslinger. Well, just because it's an apprentice gunslinger in training doesn't mean any less of a gunslinger.
But I almost feel that, like, especially the line about, like, you know, you have the shine, I have my guns, almost makes me think that, like, they're moving it to the point where Jake's never going to, like, engage with the guns as much as, like, Eddie and Susanna probably will.
Well, I just take Jake as an apprentice at that point, is what I'm thinking. But, you know, he's still a gunslinger. You know, a Jedi apprentice is still a Jedi.
Yeah.
So, you look at those younglings in, episode 2? They're like 6, 7 years old. They have basic lightsaber skills. They couldn't fight off a freaking wet paper bag or anything like that. And they're still Jedi. They're just apprentices kind of thing. That's what I took it as. Yeah. You know, like, I took it more as like, I'm accepting you into my family kind of thing. You know? Okay. I like yeah, that's how I took it. Not, hey, you're a full-fledged gunslinger. Here, go kill 50 people by yourself kind of thing.
Yeah,
that's how I took it.
It's possible for sure. Samuel in the chat says it's 19 cycles later, isn't it?
Hey,
yeah, maybe it very well could be. Indeed.
Or maybe it's the 19th cycle is the final one.
Well played. Well, the biggest fan theory has always been that the book cycle was 19, and that's why 19 was so prevalent throughout the series, is because that was the 19th cycle.
Maybe this is the 19th cycle,
or the 19th
19th cubed.
Now I've gone cross-eyed.
Yeah.
Then she goes on with number 10 here. Says the writer tried to make Roland a bit too likable for my taste. I get the hero should be likable, but he's coddling Jake a bit. I think that for this story maybe, but I think that if we get a sequel, I feel that you're going to see him being a lot more strict and
especially if we get
Jake.
Someone like or Eddie. What if he's not necessarily that strict with Jake because he realizes how he's kind of. He knows that he kind of wronged Jake, you know, the death of his mother and stuff like that was almost Roland's fault, you know, driving Flag to be like, you know, who is this boy? I got to get this boy before Roland gets to me.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But I honestly believe that the relationship between Roland and Eddie is where we're going to see the strict kind of asshole
disciplinarian.
Yeah,
really like the
I got to put you in your place.
The court Roland.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's see.
Because Jake's younger, he's going to be more susceptible to the training, and everything.
I think Roland will be a little bit more stern with him in the next book.
He might be, yeah,
because that'll be the point when he's a full-on apprentice at that point.
Well, also they're going to be
just like some kid that's joined him on his journey. Like, why would you be hard on a kid like that? Like, you know, and then like for him to lose his mom, I think that's enough for Roland's gonna be like.
Well, the other thing also is that, you know, Roland's in his world. You know, Roland's in Jake's world, but look at how Roland treats Jake before they go to Earth. You know, Keystone Earth. He's kind of just like, you know, we need to get here. We're going to go here. You know, he takes his freaking drawing, you know, all right, man, keep it, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But once they get to New York, how does Roland treat him?
Yeah.
Because Roland's lost without Jake.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think he realizes that he can't, you know, just like start treating this kid like crap, or else the kid's going to be like, screw you. Have fun in this foreign land. You don't even know how to have any money. Screw you, dude.
Yeah. Indeed.
You know, kind of thing. You know, that's almost where it got to. Look at Roland in the warehouse. He's like, Jake's like, you know what? Here's where it is. Go have fun. And then Roland's kind of like, yeah, I still need you.
Yeah.
Because he needs bullets. So.
Yeah. Indeed. And then number 11, I'm currently rereading Wind Through the Keyhole because I wanted to go back to Midworld without the commitment of the series. Is what Claire says.
I need to reread that.
That's actually a good one, too, like just to go into that one because it's a lot less commitment. Yeah. I honestly think I could probably do the same with book 4, though. I mean, I know you get the whole Blaine resolution at the beginning, but beyond that, once you dive into the actual story, it's a pretty good standalone story. I mean, it might titillate you too much, and you ended up just diving into the rest of the book altogether, the rest of the books altogether. But there has been times I've considered reading book 4 as a standalone. Then she says, number 13, the Gunslinger's Creed, or Flag's comment about chicken. And I think that was the question about getting chills.
Oh, yeah.
And then maybe 14 was, she says, seeing the tower. I don't have the questions up, but I think that, seeing the tower, maybe that's the chills moment. And then maybe the Gunslinger Creed. Favorite line.
Favorite line was Gunslinger Creed. And chills is after.
Or Flag's comment about the chicken. Number 17, favorite Easter egg is probably the Overlook picture or Christine. And then last up here, she says, one of the things I feel like the writer should have added was a visual representation of what the tower does. Rather than Roland drawing the sand and using a tarantula, they could have done some really cool special effects to show the multiple universes next door to each other and on the very edge of Toadash Darkness, essentially a visual of Flag's monologue at the end of book 1. I honestly think that's just a pure budgetary thing. Yeah. If they would have had the money.
What if we get that in the next movie with Eddie and
to
Susanna?
start? Yeah. Even as a prologue, that'd be an interesting prologue. If you
Okay,
if you get a lot more money, say they just give you like a $175 million budget to make drawing of the 3, dude, I would be going fucking nuts with like, okay, first we're doing a freaking prologue that's going to basically kind of almost do the Flag Palaver a little bit and really introduce people into like the larger tower mythology, because this is where it really gets big, and then just dive into this, then we, oh look, we just reached the sea. Jake's just like, oh cool, an ocean. Roland like maybe even just plays up the whole element of just like, no, like I didn't even know this existed. Like there was rumors of it, but I never believed that. Yeah, and go from there. Book 2, just as it were, 175 million. That you can get a lot in there with all that. I think you probably end up doing the flashbacks and stuff too, like for Susanna's flashbacks
for
Mort. To show like her different run-ins with him and stuff for sure.
Oh, I just had a thought. What if it's not Roland that gets stung by the lobstrosities? What if it's Jake?
I considered that last week, but I didn't mention it.
Where he has to save Jake.
Yeah, and maybe like not mangle him in any way, but
but he gets
make it to where he gets
Roland gets attacked. Jake comes to aid it, and he gets stung by the lobstrosity and gets poisoned.
Yeah.
So they have to get the medicine for Jake.
I could see it being so much more dramatic to make it Roland, and then that Jake is the one that has to deal with it.
And Jake has to go into Eddie. Jake has to go into Susanna and draw them.
Well, or you just make the dealing with the poisoning or the defense of Roland early on.
Yeah.
All up to Jake, because then you put this poor kid in this position where it's like, this is all
I got
to
get him to the door, and then he has to go through the door, and I have to protect him while he's in the door. I have to protect his body.
Yeah.
Dude, I think we just wrote Drawing of the 3. Sony, dude, give us a call, man. I'll write it. Tad directs it. Idris Elba's going to star in it. We got Tom Taylor, Aaron Paul, and we can cast anyone to play. We don't need Flag in this one.
Oh, I don't know about that.
What if Flag's not in the second movie?
Yeah, I wonder what role he would play in it. Unless you just got rid of Jack Mort and made it full on Flag that did the stuff to Susanna. Don't know why necessarily he would do it, but
what if it's someone who controlled by Flag that was doing it trying to get her out of the picture?
Yeah,
because she's dangerous, And the same thing with Eddie, make him a junkie. What if it's all Flag's doing?
Yeah,
so look at that. What if it's all Flag's doing? That he uses Jack Moore to get Henry addicted to heroin.
Yeah,
he uses Jack Moore to get Susanna. Tried to kill her twice.
Henry's given free heroin. Just by some random dude in the alleyway, and
then you find out that it's Jack Mort.
Or it's Flag himself.
And he just like, there goes one more junkie.
Yeah.
And he knows that it's going to bleed into Eddie's life and everything like that. And just like, dude, that would be sinister as
can I say? What about even killing his sister?
Oh, hitting her? Oh.
Or causing it. Like, play in the street, waves in front of her face.
Yeah.
Girl goes out in the street.
Go get hit by a car.
Gets hit.
Yeah.
I mean... Dude, there's a lot of possibilities for Flag, even though he wouldn't have as big a role as he does in the first movie, obviously. But I'll take. I would take Matthew McConaughey doing it. I mean, that or Gary Oldman, the man of many faces, man. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, you know what? I have no problem if they recast Flag because, like
if they had to, because he always appears so different that it would be. I think it'd be really interesting to see him like show up in different ways. Also, the last thing she says, I'm including a picture of my Dark Tower tattoo, so feel free to share. And I think this is really awesome. So this is Claire's.
Oh, that's really cool.
Dark Tower tattoo.
Oh, it's Oi! Oi in the field of roses.
Ken Conneray. That's really awesome. It's really awesome. I love Dark Tower tattoos, man, because it's interesting to me what people choose to do. And yeah, I just love seeing like different interpretations of stuff. So Claire, thank you for sharing. And then she signs off Long Days and Pleasant Nights, signed Claire from Lexington, Kentucky.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
It's well done.
Yeah,
well done.
Indeed.
Bravo.
Indeed. Now, would you ever do any kind of bumbler tattoo? I know you want to do the Caw tattoo. And if
Caw tattoo, and then if I'm going to do something else from the series, it's got to be Eddie.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
Yeah.
You know, one thing that has crossed my mind is maybe like a little wooden figure. Because like he talks about it before he whittles the key. He's already whittled like a car or something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
And then maybe his initials, EC D.
Yeah.
Did you see what Ryan said in the chat?
I didn't. No, it's hard for me to keep with the chat sometimes. Got all these different things going on here.
He says that I'll take you guys writing it over Akiva Goldsman any day.
I don't know. I mean, there's some small issues there, but I don't know. I wouldn't full on buy into that whole thing of everyone that's kind of gone pretty harsh on him recently.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, either way. I don't know. Book 2, I want to see it. I want to see.
Let's do it.
I want to see.
Let's do it.
Now,
Let's
Wizard and Glass, though, that would be, I mean, that's potentially next. So,
No, they already got people for that. They already got a showrunner and everything like that. Let's go next step, Ted. Let's write a sequel. Me and you.
You guys should do a friend tattoos. This is what Cody says in the chat. You do want to do the Ka tattoo. I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to a Ka tattoo. I mean, I prefer the Eye of the Crimson King, but, you know.
You're such a terrible person, Ted.
All hail the Crimson King, sir.
You're a monster. Wow.
What?
He's a terrible person.
He's harmless. He's just stuck on
harmless. He murdered an entire land.
He's stuck up on a balcony. He's harmless.
Harmless.
He's like a parakeet, just stuck in a little cage.
Yeah, he screeches like one too.
Next up is actually a new one as well. Christy from Perth,
Australia.
And yeah, she said
down under. We got another one from Outworld. Is it Chris?
What? No, this first time emailer here. Christy from Perth in Western Australia.
Yeah. No.
The
other Australian.
Yeah, Chris from Australia.
Yeah, Chris. Yeah. So we got Chris and Christy.
Yep.
Is this Chris just messing with us? Is it?
And then she says, first of all, please let me thank you for this awesome podcast. In real life, I don't know any Stephen King fans, let alone any Tower junkies.
Aww.
So I feel less alone now that I can geek out with you. And that that's music to our ears,
yes.
And we are definitely glad to have you as part of the Contap.
Cody just said in the chat, and so fell Lord Perth.
Oh, man.
Oh, I love it.
Now, what about a Blaine tattoo?
No.
That'd be a good one.
No. Not unless it's Blaine on his side, dead with Eddie standing triumphant over him.
Oh, you don't like Blaine?
He's a murderous machine. No, I don't like Blaine.
Now, it's always been a fan thing in my little head. My fan canon, as it were, has always been that right before they got there, Flag wandered into Blaine, did a little bit of fiddling, and then walked away.
No. Eddie destroyed Blaine.
No. To potentially even corrupting him to make him more like
evil.
Put him over the top. Like
he wouldn't have had to sneak into Blaine. He could have just done it from the computer banks where he saved Andrew Quick.
Yeah,
that's where his brain is.
That's true. It's true.
He's already there. Blaine's evil because of Flag. Shame. No, that's not true because Blaine was evil beforehand. They talk about that.
Yeah. Then she goes on and says, I've been following you on social media for a while, but didn't want to start listening to your podcast until after my reread of the series, which I recently completed in anticipation of the film release.
Sweet.
So I've been binge listening, and my email is going to cover some of the questions that you say you always want answered by fans.
Ooh.
I came to the Tower by way of being a Stephen King fan and wanted to consume everything he'd ever written. This is way back in the early 90s, so all I knew about the books was from the bibliography in the front of each book. There was no internet in my dark corner of the world. No way to find out more. Yes, I am one of those people you feel sorry for. I had to wait for most of the books to be written to read the series because the books weren't all that popular. Even though 3 of them had been released when I started reading, it was still difficult to find each one of them.
Oh,
he says, "Don't even get me started on what I had to go through to find a copy of Cycle of the Werewolf."
Oh, good Lord.
Then she says, I've read the series 3 times now, and Eddie has always been my favorite character.
Yes!
Got a lot of Eddie fans.
Yeah, because Eddie's the best.
I would say probably Eddie and Jake, probably the top 2 contenders for overall I mean,
No, Eddie and Roland.
We haven't kept track necessarily, but do we have a lot of Jake fans?
There's a lot of Roland fans.
I think Jake might.
I think there's a lot more Roland fans.
I mean,
than
Roland's
Jake.
probably number one, and then like take him out, and you probably have Jake and Eddie as the top.
It's the boys' club.
Yeah, I mean, just because like I just think that like Jake being so critical to the story and just that we follow him for so much longer, and then Eddie, I like.
Plus, who doesn't love a story about a kid and his dog?
Yeah, I guess like Eddie's the one that perplexes me because like I just was never that. I didn't even trust him for so long, but like
You're such a fool.
For you guys that are like huge fans, I'm just like I'm just like, oh god, I guess I'm on the opposite side here because I just
you're a monster.
I just didn't trust him for so long, man. You can't trust a junkie.
We've already established this, Tad. You're a monster. Hi, Travis.
Can't trust a junkie, man. That's all I'm saying. Let's see. She goes on and says, I can't say why. I'm just drawn to him the way that Roland is drawn to the tower. My favorite book changes each time I read it. The first time through was the final book. I think probably because I finally got an ending after 15 years. The second time was The Wizard in Glass, which I couldn't stand the first time or the third time. I just wanted to get back to the quartet and their quest.
That sounds familiar.
This time around, it was drawing the three. It was so good getting to know our quartet again, and they were really only strong together in the books, in this book and in the Wastelands. And that's definitely and I think like. That's what perplexed me too, because for the longest time, book 2 was my favorite book, and I think that like the Eddie part is the highlight of that book for sure.
Yeah,
but it just never translated for me to like liking Eddie. Like I just never trusted him. It's just like like the way he puts like the knife to Roland's throat, and just everything else. I'm just like, you can't trust this guy, man. Like he'll freaking like murder you for his first chance at getting high on heroin again. Like so, and again, there's a lot of Eddie fans. So I guess I'm just.
A terrible person.
I guess I'm on the other side of it.
You're a terrible person.
I don't know. I just didn't.
Got some questions from Travis in the chat if you got a second.
All right, go on.
Says he just joined us.
I
and
see
he says,
a smiley. I see a frowny emoji.
Oh, get out of here. He says, you all about to wrap up?
We're going through an email right now, and then we'll see where we're looking at for time for that for sure. Oh yeah, just rewatched Dark Tower today. Enjoyed it so much. Like Tom Taylor much more this time around.
Is this the fan that...
I'm trying to remember. Travis, did you tweet yesterday about that you were going to be getting into your movie about the time that we started recording? Somebody tweeted us.
Yeah, you told me about that last night.
And you mentioning that like our shows generally run longer than the movie. So which is true. I mean,
it's true. Our show, it kind of caught me off guard when you said that because it's like, wait, our shows, usually are a little bit over 2 hours. So
oh no, he says it wasn't him, but. Nope. Oh, well, either way, yeah. No, so we're gonna go through this email and then we'll see where we got from there. I think these reaction episodes have generally been right around 3 hours, and we're at about 2 and 35-ish, somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we still got a little probably this email, and then we'll see if we got any shorter ones to cover. But we're probably getting a little bit closer to the end than the beginning. But I'm always Travis from Louisiana. I've emailed 3 times. Yeah. Okay, yeah. You have definitely emailed. I just couldn't remember. Somebody tweeted us last night, and Twitter's always a weird one because people's usernames don't necessarily equate to their real names. And someone was like, oh yeah, I'm going to my because a reaction to my tweet about when we would start recording today. Like, oh, that's right when my showtime starts. But I'll just join you when you guys.
Yeah, when I get out.
When I get out, if you guys' shows are long. And I just wanted to see if that was you. But yeah. Then let's see. Christy goes on and says, on my first read, the ending shocked me. I actually gasped out loud and fell forward in the books as if pulled into the same way that Roland was being pulled into the past. For days I was haunted by this and wondered why King would be so horrible to Roland and make us feel that despair. Eventually I came to understand that it had to be that way. It is all through the series that cause a wheel. There really wasn't any other way the series could end. You also asked if the speech from the book slipped into daily conversations. The answer for me is yes. When I get frustrated with people, sometimes I accidentally blurt out for the sake of your father, which gets me a lot of weird looks. But to be honest, also gets people moving, so it's quite effective. And that's really awesome. Yeah, I think I've told this on some of the older shows, but there was one point when I said thank you, Sai, to a pizza guy. I had getting a pizza delivered, and gave him the money and stuff, and then he gave me my pizza, and I said that, and he just gave me the weirdest look, and I just ended up closing the door and just figuring like, oh, well, he probably just thinks I'm some stoner. But yeah, that's I like that though, that you're saying forget or for the face of your fathers, like that. Yeah, I'll have to remember that one. Sometimes I just need those good little like ones to just get someone a kick in the pants a little bit. But yeah, that's awesome to see hear your reaction about the ending too. That's pretty awesome. Just like, because like, how did you react again? I can't remember.
I didn't read the ending,
but when you actually read it though,
I sat there for like 3 minutes in stunned silence, going, "What?"
Yeah, I think I was just flabbergasted. I was just like, I was speechless. I was just like, dude, what the hell? Yeah. So that's kind of cool. I gasping out loud and stuff. And I'm definitely not beyond those kind of reactions when I'm reading. Like, it doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen. I want to say I even had like some sort of verbal reaction when Eddie got killed because I did not see that coming.
I threw my book across the room.
Yeah,
physically said "son of a bitch" and threw my book across the room when he got shot.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh man. Yeah. I'm not beyond.
I flat out. I'll admit this. I'm not ashamed of it. I flat out bawled when Jake died.
Yeah, that one hit me pretty hard. What's funny is like the Oi actually got me harder in the fact that like his reaction to Jake's death, almost made the death worse.
You know what's funny?
Than it already was.
You know what's funny is that ever since I met my wife, she's turned me on to feeling sorry for the people reacting to the death, more so than the death itself. So it's like now when I reread the series, I pay attention to Susanna and Jake and Oi. And Roland, how they react to Eddie getting shot, and then how Jake dies, how Oi reacts,
how Oi reacts is
just so heartbreaking.
Yeah, that destroys me every time for sure. Because that was like that's my first thought. Is it's like okay, well he's important to Roland, but dude, like
Jake is Oi's world.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. That's
what Roland said is that Oi would have died.
If Jake
he would have just stayed at Jake's grave and starved to death.
Yeah,
he would have.
If Jake hadn't given him the command that Roland,
you have to go with Roland. You have to protect Roland from the spider.
Yeah.
Travis asked if we ever saw if the did either of you see if the Eye of the Crimson King was indeed on the rooftop scene?
No, I haven't seen it since our last episode. I'm actually going to see it tomorrow, 19th, of course. Dude, it was just a happy accident. The buddy that I'm going to go see it with, his schedule didn't really allow for Sunday, and then like today we're recording and all that, so I'm just like probably wouldn't work tonight. So I'm just like, let's go see it Saturday. And then, like, today, it dawned on me that Saturday's the 19th. I'm like, I love that. Cause a wheel. No, so I'm going to hopefully be looking for that in the theater tomorrow.
Unless you saw one, because you just saw it, didn't you?
Right side of the screen, you said?
Right side. Not left. Right side.
All right. We'll see. Hopefully it's there, because my boy needs plenty of representation. Then she goes...
I thought Flag was your boy.
Well, yeah, it's true. I mean, I'll always take Flag. If Flag's going to usurp the Crimson King, I'm all about that. I'll take Flag over the Crimson King any day.
It seems like you're a little bit of a wishy-washy here with your allegiance.
Yeah.
Eddie for life, sir.
Okay. And then she goes on and says, my favorite King book is The Stand, which I read every few years. Every year I set myself a reading challenge, and I think that that next year I will read all of King's novels. I'm being literal there. No short story collections, no Bachman novels, and no nonfiction. There's no way I would be able to do it with all of those. I'm also leaving out the Dark Tower series, as I've just finished reading those. I'm calling it my Re-King challenge. See what I did there?
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. I like
Bravo.
that.
Well done. Well, that's good.
It looks like Ryan's taking off in the chat. Thanks for joining us, Ryan. Definitely good to have you with us.
Yes, thank you. I like that idea, though. Not reading the short stories, because that's what you're doing, is you're reading everything.
Yeah.
But you're not doing it in a year. But a year challenge of doing all of Stephen King's works, non-Bachman, short story,
because I'm going to read like the Bachman novels. I think I want to read those. I mean, I don't know about his nonfiction stuff. Like he did like the Boston Red Sox book. Like I have no interest in reading that because like whatever. I mean, I've read on writing.
His fiction stuff.
Like I've read on writing, and I might throw that in, but I'm not counting that as part of my my journey necessarily. That's probably more just going to be like because I want to read it again because it's a great book. I love reading it and hearing like more about his life and stuff. Now we get into a little bit of a tongue lashing from Kirsty, I guess.
Oh, Kirsty. I'm sorry. I said her name wrong.
Yeah, I think I've been saying Christy.
I think I did too. I'm dyslexic. I'm sorry.
No, it's one of those things, man. Like the human mind, I swear, we just look at the first and last letter and just like,
oh, it's Christy.
Kind of get a sense of the rest of the word. It's like those things you see on like social media where it jumbles all the things except for the first and last, but you can still read it because it's whatever. It's sorry, Kirsty. Kirsty
Apologies.
for Perth. Yeah,
cry your pardon.
Yeah, indeed. A little tongue lashing, though. She says, Tad, seriously, on what level of the tower is Flag a good guy?
Thank you.
She says, no way. I understand your view that he is what he is and is pursuing his own path in the same way that Roland's pursuing his, but that does not excuse his evil behavior. Yes, our quartet may have killed, but none of those took pleasure or used their teeth like Flag does to Bobby Terry in The Stand. He also has no qualms about killing or causing chaos with no guilt or remorse, something most king heroes will feel when innocents are in the way or are lost or are lost in their cause for survival. Oh, well, I mean, I guess everyone has their interpretations.
Hang your head in shame. Hang it.
Oh, man. He's the best. I mean, he's just like
evil.
I don't know, like, even where my love of him started, if it was because one of my earliest, I remember watching The Stand on TV when it aired back in like the early 90s. It's definitely before I had read the book. And I even wonder if like even just like Jamie Sheridan's performance there is one of my first like things that really got me in love with Flag. And then like I think like then reading The Stand and then getting the Dark Tower and realizing that that's Flag too. I think that's where it was all downhill for me, where I'm just like, oh yeah, dude, I love this guy. I love these guys that everyone calls villains. They're just great.
They are villains.
It's just great. So-called villains.
No, villains.
And then she says, we need to put the pronunciation of Cuthbert's name to bed once and for all. In Wizard and Glass, when the boys reveal their true identities to Shimi, Chapter 9, Reaping, Subchapter 4, King sounds out Cuthbert's name via Shimi, pronouncing it as Key Youth Bert, subject closed. And I think Cuthbert. Yeah, so Cuthbert, I think that's how we've pretty much said it. I think it's mostly because of the audiobooks.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely know it's one that everyone says differently. But I think we mostly stay in the Cuthbert realm. I don't know if I say Cuthbert very often. In fact, that even sounds weird to me to say it that way, even though I know plenty of listeners will say it that way. But yeah, I'm going to stick with the way I have always said it, pretty much as Cuthbert. But you're
such a weird person.
And,
you know that?
And Shimi, she's like, yeah, Shimi proves that my way was right all along.
How? I don't understand you. You love Cuthbert and love Flag.
Yeah.
Flag kills Cuthbert.
Well, sacrifice need to be made.
What? What is wrong with you?
What? You just dawning on you now that two of my favorite characters run into each other there at Jericho Hill?
You're such a weird person. I can't believe you like the guy that kills one of your favorite characters. I hate Pimley.
Now, here's the thing, though. Flag is much higher on the list than Cuthbert is.
Shame.
That's all I'm saying.
Shame.
That's all I'm saying. And hey, I hate Mordred. We all hate Mordred. We can all agree on that. You guys, most of you guys hate him because he freaking kills Oi. Of course, I hate him because he kills Flag. Then Kirsty goes on and says, one other thing I wanted to mention is that in one of your episodes, you talk about the researchers of Matthew McConaughey's career, and I think you even called it a renaissance, or let's see, there is an official term called a McConaissance. And here's an article for your information. And then she gives us an article here. I will have to add that to the show notes. And she says, as of writing, we are still 6 days away from the film being released here in Australia. As one of your followers pointed out, time is different, and so the world has moved on. I'm really looking forward to the film, and I have to thank you again for talking me through my concerns. I was worried that it could not and would not be the Gunslinger, but listening to you helped me understand that it's the next time around, and we still have the books to turn to. I think all of your regular questions, I think that's all your regular questions. I will write again with my thoughts on the movie. And I also have a few thoughts I'd like to share about the books. And then she signs off, long days and pleasant nights, signed Kirsty. So thank you, Kirsty, for writing in. I love hearing people that don't have anyone to geek out about that find us. And I love just diving into it like this. And anyone that, is using like mid-world speech.
Yeah.
Belongs right in our quartet, of course.
Uh-huh. I remember I was at a store one time with my wife, and I heard someone bump into someone and say, "Cry your pardon." Man, my head whipped around so fast.
Yeah, indeed. Then let's see over in the chat. Up to 74% done with King's work, Cody says. Travis said, I've read most everything of King's pre-90s. Need to catch up with his works. Don't usually have time for reading anymore. Reading The Gunslinger when I can, though. Samuel says, this year I've read The Stand, Eye of the Dragon, and Insomnia so far. Let's see. Yeah, like may have to talk about Barnes Noble. Have an audiobook. George Guidell pronounces it Cuthbert. Yeah, I do think that Guidell actually does do it differently.
Yeah.
And then Frank Muller does
Cuthbert.
And that's I love them both. I really do. I don't like getting into this whole like compare the two against each other. I love them both for what they do, but I definitely think Frank he's the Babe Ruth of reading audiobooks for sure. So
he's the great Bambino.
Yeah, indeed. Let's see. We got another shorter one here. We can jump to real quick. I can't remember if we've heard from him before. Or see, I go through all these emails, so there's times I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this name. But sometimes it turns out that like the email that I'm about to read is the one that I'm remembering. I think there's even one of like 5, 6, 7 episodes back where I'm like, oh, this is the person that said this. And then a few minutes later, I read that other email. I'm like, ah, shit. All right, so this is Daryl from Minneapolis, and yeah, this sounds so familiar, but again, it could be just because I read this email earlier when I put it in the notes. Let's see. Daryl starts off says, "Heil Gunslingers."
Heil.
Just thought I would send you this your way. This was a review from a critic here in Minneapolis. He's honestly the only critic I've given credence to with any movie. The guy gets it when it comes to movies, if that makes sense. I thought you'd be interested in what he had to say about Dark Tower, and he actually gives us a link. And I actually forgot to go to this before doing the show here, so I haven't read this yet. He does a weekly spot on one of the radio stations in town. When talking about Dark Tower after it was first released, he said the same thing. The two of you had been saying about the echo chamber and how Rotten Tomatoes is killing the movie industry. He also stressed how he understood that this was a stepping stone movie and that more movies will flesh out the series as the series moves along. Obviously, none of the other critics understand this. Anyway, like I said, I thought you'd be interested in seeing what he had to say. Keep up the great work. Signed, Daryl in Minneapolis. So I'll definitely have to give this a read. And I will definitely put this in the show notes, too. So any of you guys can go ahead and go to the show notes and read this up and see what this critic is saying. That's definitely good to hear. More people,
someone that actually can think for themselves.
Yeah, talking about the critic echo chamber and the Rotten Tomatoes stuff. Yeah, and then Cody's talking about Frank Muller, missing him definitely. And then
so Travis asked a question. I don't know if we want to open this can of worms right here.
All right, go on.
He says, aside from let me get the wording right so I say it right. Hey Tad and Peter, what are some of your favorite novels by authors other than Cy King? That's a tough one. That's a big can of worms you're opening up there. I've talked about it before on the podcast. I think one of my all-time favorite novels is Watchers by Dean Koontz. It's got espionage, it's got monsters, it's got a love interest, it's got a human intelligence dog. I mean, it's a great story. Set in the 70s, fantastic, I think, all around. I think it would make a fantastic movie. But aside from that, man, dude, this question's making me realize I haven't read much outside of King recently.
I have been a fan in the past. I haven't read him in probably about 10 years or so, but I have been desiring to go back. I've always been a huge fan of Thomas Harris and the Hannibal series. Red Dragon being my favorite book. Silence of the Lambs is the sequel. Obviously one of the most famous movies of all time. But those books are really fun. I like those a lot. He also did one called Black Sunday, which was made into a movie back in the 70s about an attack on the Super Bowl with a blimp terrorist attack. He's a good author. I like him, mostly because of the Hannibal stuff, though. I'm really trying to think what else there is. I'm a huge history buff, so I read a lot of history.
You got me into a couple of history books recently as well. American Caesar and the Rise and Fall of the Third Reich.
Yeah,
we're both history buffs of that. Also, we've talked about it before. We're huge Star Wars fans.
Yeah,
we read a lot of Star Wars novels. Aside from that, man, it's making me kind of realize I'm kind of one-dimensional when it comes to like novel. I'm heavy on Stephen King. I do like the Harry Potter series. I'll say that. I like the Harry Potter series. I liked the Hunger Games. Harry Potter series, aside from Dark Tower, is my favorite series, book-wise.
I'd have to honestly come back to this maybe in the future after I can kind of really think about it. Because like right now, I think the problem is that, especially since we started the show, our lives became a lot more King-heavy.
Yes.
So King is a huge thing. Like taking him out makes me almost feel like I'm like a non-reader almost, but like I know that there's a lot more that I enjoy. But yeah, I don't know. But I'll definitely think about it and come back. Thomas Harris just came to mind because I've recently been thinking I really need to go back and reread those books.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love a lot of history books. like even more recently, I've been reading some even history of the more quote modern era. I'm reading like a book on Richard Nixon and that era of politics and stuff. Like, just because like modern history isn't taught very much in like schools and stuff. So like I'm into history. That kind of stuff is huge. I remember growing up, I loved like Jurassic Park. The novel is a good one.
Oh, The Lost World doesn't get the credit that it deserves. It's actually a fairly good novel.
Yeah, for sure.
Dude, I'm looking through my Audible right now. I think it's like 70% Stephen King.
Yeah.
Like, if I just read through some of these titles, Dr. Sleep, Stan, Gunslinger, Drawing of the Three, Wastelands, Wizard and Glass, Wolves in the Kala, Songs of Susanna, and then I get The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. Like, I had 7 books or something like that before I got into The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich.
Yeah,
Like,
I'd be curious to find what my freaking because like Audible's like primarily where I do most of my quote reading now, because like it's just life is so busy. It's kind of hard to like spend like usually I'll buy sometimes I'll buy like an ebook and have it on my phone where I could just like read it in bed for like 20 minutes before I fall asleep or something. But like
driving and stuff like that.
But for like if I'm reading. Like I don't know. It doesn't happen as much as Audible. Right. So like in my Audible, I got Nosferatu by Joe Hill. That only obviously came because he's Stephen King's son. I also got The Fireman. Let's see. More of a history book on the Americas, like interaction with the Middle East over the last 70 years or 60 years. Some Star Wars books. Let's see, one about a soldier in the more modern wars called Red Platoon. Let's see, I got a book on the history of like the AIDS outbreak. Like, yeah, I'm a huge history fan. Like, I guess like more so than maybe I don't read as much fiction outside of Stephen King. A World War One book, another World War One book, a book on Robert Oppenheimer, a book about a mob hitman. Like, yeah, so I get into like the mafia stuff as well. Like, I'm a really big fan of like nonfiction, I suppose.
Yeah.
I guess is just from a small sampling from my Audible there outside of Stephen King. But yeah, huge Star Wars fan, so definitely get some Star Wars books too. And actually, Daryl sent us another small email, a couple sentences. Hi, Gunslingers. Quick thought on how the movie could explain Tom Taylor getting older and taller. One of the biggest themes throughout the books is how time has become funny. They could easily grasp onto that theme and explain how he's gotten older. Thoughts?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what they need to do, is just like... and I mean, at the same time, who of us doesn't understand that, like, kids that age quickly and grow quickly, to where it's just like, all you have to do is be like, oh, this is 2 years later, and... now they're reaching the beach, like, and now it's just like, oh yeah, now it makes sense why he looks, because it's going to be potentially a few years down the road if we get a sequel before they start filming it. So just make it that way where it's like, oh man, we got to that Manny Village, but it was a few years of travel to get to this beach, and now we hit the beach and dad a chick. But yeah, time being funny, I think they definitely need to play with that in the next movie, because even if it's a way of like Jake just like complaining, just like, what's going on, man? Like, this isn't right. Like, this isn't jiving. This isn't working. Like, my brain is weird. And that's what Roland explains to man, time's funny.
Time's funny, Jake.
Yeah, just, and maybe even they find like a watch and Jake wants to keep it. Roland's like, it's useless. It's junk.
Time
doesn't work here.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that way.
Real fast, Travis, just so you know, Tad and I are huge hardcore history fans.
Yeah. I often say Dan Carlin is I just blanked on the Citizen Kane of podcasts.
He is the Citizen Kane of podcasts for sure.
Yeah, huge.
If anyone's a history fan, please check out the Hardcore History podcast. It is fantastic.
And then it looks like Stephanie Plume series. I'm not familiar with that, Cody. Travis says, haven't read any Plume, but if King is most of your novel consumption, that rocks. He's great.
See, the big thing with me is that I was reading very little before we started this podcast. Like, I had the Dark Tower series. I was reading it once every year and a half or so. And I had the Harry Potter series and everything like that. It wasn't until we started this podcast that I started Audible and started, I was about to branch out and start buying some other things. I mean, I haven't even got Watchers on my Audible yet. I've been focusing so much on Dark Tower related Stephen King over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Since we started this. I mean, we're coming up on our anniversary for this show.
Yeah, 2 years here pretty soon.
Right?
Another couple months. I think we started in October.
I thought it was September.
No, I think it was the very beginning of October.
Are you sure?
Yeah, pretty sure. Yeah, pretty sure. We're getting pretty close though. Also, Samuel mentions Game of Thrones. I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan for the TV show, but I absolutely refuse to read the books. Generally speaking, until I've come to this place where if there's a something like this, like Game of Thrones, that has a show and books, I will always I would like to watch the show to its entirety first.
Yep.
And then go read the books because I feel like I can enjoy the maximum amount, because I feel like Lord of the Rings, like I enjoyed that first movie a lot because I hadn't read the books, and I read the books, or no, I watched the first two because
it was because
I came late to the series
yes.
for Lord of the Rings. I watched the first movie the day before the second one came out, so I watched the first and second movie, loved the hell out of them, and then during that year I had to wait between that and the third one. I read the books I think 2 or 3 times, and it just got to the point where I didn't enjoy Return of the King as much. I mean, it's a fun movie and all, but like the reading the books harmed my enjoyment of the films. So I came to this conclusion with like Game of Thrones. It was one of the first ones where I'm like, okay, I'm going to hold off on the books until I am 100% done with the show. Once that last episode airs, I'll start looking at it. Now, the other caveat, call it because of with this Dark Tower thing too, with the waiting, there's part of me that thinks that until he publishes that last book, I might hold off on reading them as well. I don't want to get into this whole like being part of these poor suckers that have to sit here and wait and pray that the guy doesn't freaking die. I mean, like Stephen King got hit by a van. This guy's a little bit older. Like I don't want to be in that position. So there is part of me that is debating once in a couple years here when that final episode airs if I'll start reading. I want to read them. I do. Yeah. But that's just my kind of weird little thing.
The other one we've talked about this a little bit before is that you've never read or watched the Harry Potter series. You got the movies, but you just haven't had the time to sit down and watch 8 movies and then start the books as well.
Totally.
So that's something else that you've also done that way of thinking where you're going to watch the movies first,
100%,
and then read the movies.
Go read them because I feel like
read the books.
Then I feel like I could really enjoy both to their maximum potential. So that's kind of my new way of doing things. So
okay, Samuel, I have to know: are you joking about a hardcore Game of Thrones? What is that? Is that a book, or is that the? I'm confused. Because hardcore history is amazing. If there's a hardcore type of podcast for Game of Thrones, I have to know about this.
All right, I think overall though, I think that's about where we're gonna close up for the podcast.
More. We do one more.
We can continue. Let's
do
see.
One more.
Let's see where we're at here. Get over to the thing and switch over to Joe.
Okay.
Actually has essentially it's one email, but he sent it in 2 pieces for some reason. It starts off, says, greetings, discover your podcast on 8/5 after reading all the terrible reviews for a wonderful movie I just watched. I don't get that mentality so prevalent in film critics that they have to band together. Real fans of The Dark Tower know how awesome it was to see the movie.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah,
we do.
And then let's see. Then he goes on and says, I have a fun personal story for my viewing of the movie. On 8/3, I woke up with a painful and slightly swollen elbow. By the night, it was red and looking like a golf ball was under my skin.
Ugh.
I went to the ER and the next day and was diagnosed with a staph infection. To treat it, I was prescribed an antibiotic, and you guessed it, Keflex. I was told a buddy that I felt like Roland after his fingers were hacked off by the lobstrosities. It was tough watching the movie with my throbbing elbow, but Kyle would have it no other way. Anyhow, thanks for the podcast and all your insights. I've been a long time constant reader and adore all things Dark Tower. I've been enjoying going through your old episodes, and I'm looking forward to more palavers. Long days and pleasant nights. Signed, Joe. And,
thanks, Joe.
Yeah, long days and pleasant nights to you as well. Maybe twice the number. And then back over to the chat here. I'm a strange cat. I like the Lord of the Rings movies more than the books. I know that's blasphemy, but honestly, Lord of the Rings is a series, is a classic. Man, Tolkien can go too much on it. Yeah. I mean, Tolkien definitely has a lot when it comes to like very descriptive and very.
Yes.
But there was just a lot of there were some story beats that like I really enjoyed from the books that were completely ignored in the movie that I feel really took away from my enjoyment.
It was what we've talked about before. Is you weren't able to go in with an open mind. You went in expecting something and didn't get it.
Yeah.
Which hurt the film for you.
Yeah, exactly.
And you just never want that to happen again.
Yeah.
Samuel explains, so apparently Hardcore Game of Thrones is a podcast like Hardcore History, only about the Game of Thrones universe. I'm going to go find it right now. Hold on.
Let's see. And then Cody says in the middle of Notch's Burning, almost 36-hour long audiobook. And I love long ones. That's why some of these history books are ones I end up buying. Because,
do you know that's what Ted told me when I told him to get the Harry Potter series on Audible? You know what he said to me? Well, I can't do it. The first book's too short.
Yeah, it's not even 10 hours, I don't think.
Like, get out of here, dude. It's 8 books.
If it's not double digits, I don't waste my credit on a book.
Boo.
I don't. Dude, especially with Dan Carlin, that's less than a podcast. Oh. No, and then Travis, no, it wasn't necessarily Tom Bombadil. It was actually the like the scouring of the Shire stuff.
Oh yeah,
and also even just moving the the Shelob into the third movie, I thought was a huge mistake. I think it really, it made the whole second movie feel like nothing but filler. I mean, I know you get Smeagol, but like overall, it just felt like well, whatever. This is kind of a digression, but I guess that's kind of what happens with Palavers. But yeah, no, there was a few things that were just like whatever, and just some character choices that they made that weren't necessarily as true to the books. And I really liked what Tolkien did, even though he might go a little bit overboard with descriptions. Although we have to also admit that Cy King is easily in that realm as well, where he can go a little bit overboard on his descriptions. But I love him for that. But and then Joe comes back and he says, now that I've had time to think on the 19 questions, here are my answers. How did you like it? A solid 16.5. Did you feel the runtime is detrimental to the film? No, but as a fan, I would love to see a longer director's cut. How did you like Idris as Roland? Idris was excellent. How did you like Matthew as Walter? He was perfect. And that is to say, all right. How did you like Tom Taylor as Jake? Perfect. How did the film impact your view of the books? Makes me love the stories even more. Do you feel the 9 years of developmental hell and decades of prior waiting paid off? In spades. Are you excited to see more films and TV shows? Heck yes. Number 9, what was your favorite Roland? And he says, books, hands down. Bought the first comics when they came out, but I'm not a comic book reader. Number 10, did you feel the film fit into the established mythology? Yes. Did it make you want to jump back in and read the books again? Yes. I started a second cycle through a couple years ago and stalled out after Wolves. I just picked up Songs of Suzanne again. It's like I never left. What is interesting is that my picture of Roland as I read hasn't changed to Idris. He's still the Eastwood type spaghetti Western dude. That's interesting. I'm gonna, especially now that I've seen the movie, I'll be interested to see what happens once I jump back in.
Yeah.
Because it was starting to kind of change to where I started to like try it on a little bit because we knew about him when I was in my last read. Which I paused my last read in the middle of Wolves of Call It because I wanted to start the Stephen King project. So when I come back, I'm going to be jumping right into the Wolves, like right after the big meeting at with the town. So
the first one.
Yeah, so I'm really early in it. I'm not even in the middle. I'm like at the very beginning of it. So. Number 12, did critics and rumors negativity impact your enjoyment of the film? No, but they ticked me off after seeing it. I don't pay attention to critics before seeing anything, in fact. I boycotted all movie trailers since the Simpsons movie when the trailer ruined the hilarity of Spider-Pig for me. I go in fresh.
Oh, okay.
That's it. I love Spider-Pig.
Spider-Pig. Spider-Pig.
Yeah, now Simpsons. Now there's another thing, man. If I ever did another a podcast outside of movies, it'd probably end up being some Simpsons related.
So as I work,
there's 100 million Simpsons podcasts though. So I'm not saying I would do that, but
I was at work last night and I looked up the what was it, the Defenders trailer.
Yeah,
and I wanted to see that one more time before that series dropped. Dude, they have a YouTube channel dedicated to just Simpsons episodes.
Yeah,
where it just plays.
Oh yeah,
commercial-free Simpsons episodes.
Yeah, I was like, those are technically illegal. They'll eventually get shut down.
Oh, will they?
Yeah.
Oh man,
because they're just bootlegging the shows.
No, I thought it was from Fox.
It's not.
Oh
no, they have their app on FXX and stuff. So no. Okay, the number 13 favorite line. I love the Gunslinger Credo and the Savages line. Can't wait to watch it all again and pick up even more lines. Savages.
What breed?
What breed? Number 14, any moment that gave you chills. Seeing the reload sequence for the first time, aside from this, which is, if he didn't watch trailers, then that would have been totally fresh for him.
That's true.
Yeah. Aside from the story, the quick reload is always something that totally drew me in. Also, the blind shot was incredible. Number 15, which again, if he didn't watch the trailers, that would have been fresh for him.
That's true.
Number 15, how did you like the score? Perfect. Did South Africa feel like Midworld? Yes. Favorite Easter egg, spaghetti Western marquee, the Pennywise ride, talking raccoons. Number 18, did the elements of the other books bother you? Nope. And then did Nikolai remember the face of his father, as King said, and then some. So that's how Joe finishes up his email there. And that's what Joe chimed in there. And thanks Joe for emailing.
Thank you.
Definitely appreciate it and love getting new listeners and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's interesting to me too, to like have someone that discovered us because they were pissed off about the reviews.
Yeah,
that makes me laugh. Actually,
I love it.
That's funny. That made me laugh when I first read that email. I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool.
That is awesome.
So yeah, I think that with that though, we'll wrap it up.
One more.
That puts us.
Come on, one more. Let's do it.
Yeah, you want it?
Let's do one more.
All right. Okay. We'll keep going. We have a few more emails, but
Are we getting close? That's my question. Let's see how close we're getting. So that was the whole point of the show, is to get through some of these before our international friends joined us next week.
yeah, we got. Oh, looks like one just came in during the course of this recording. Actually, but what we had before was 1, 2, 3, 4 more. So yeah, let's see. Next up is Sawyer, and I guess I can change the screen over. That's there we go. And yeah, so got that and get the chat back up. Travis is saying one more as well. Hey, I'll keep going, man. I got nowhere to be. But all right. So Sawyer starts off here and says, "Hi, Tad and Peter."
Kyle.
And he says, "Let's get right into it." He says, "Number one, yes, I certainly enjoyed this offering, the Dark Tower. Some of it to a greater, some of it to a lesser degree. But all in all, it was more than a solid start to kick off a new franchise. It was a dream come true for me to see Midworld, as many of the characters come to life on the big screen in my hometown. A very special experience that I hope to have again sometime. I did feel that the movie had some issues that impacted it negatively, but altogether it was entertaining and mostly fulfilling journey. I can't wait to see it more. The critics who labeled the film a disaster must have lost their freaking minds. A sentiment that my girlfriend, who has not read the books, agrees with, which is definitely good to know. And he says, having seen it 3 times now, I'd personally give it a 14 or 15 out of 19. I'm reluctant to give it a higher rating due to what I assume were some of the questionable decisions that were made in post-production, specifics below. And then number 2, let's see, and then which is the runtime. Sadly, yes, while the brisk pace favored some of the scenes, hospital sequence comes to mind, it didn't quite work so well for others. The ending felt rushed. At least slap a Bango Skank signature below the rose graffiti if we're going to be denied seeing Roland and Jake travel back to Midworld.
I was wishing they would do that one.
Yeah. I was definitely waiting for that. I think we got that in, didn't we get Bango Skank in the 11/22/63?
Yes.
I thought so. Yeah. So we've actually had that graffito show up before, just not in this where and when.
Well, it was also in the Stand miniseries.
Okay. All right. Then it says, Jake travel back to Midworld and start their quest for the tower on screen. If we couldn't see that, he says. Also, I would have loved for Roland to tell Jake, and thereby the audience, more of his backstory or his background and his motivations through the movie. I feel that Roland could have taken more time to explain the tower too, as well as the functions of the beams. Having Roland call the earthquakes beamquakes seconds after the beams were disregarded and simply referred to as energy emitted from the tower didn't sit well with me. Neither did having the breakers attacking the tower rather than the beams. Maybe a more detailed explanation was scratched after test audiences reacted confused by the whole thing. There was a shot of the energy burst crashing into the beam in the trailer, and he says at 1:32. Summing up, I feel like an additional 20-30 minutes would have done the story and the characters more justice. And I think that most of us would probably agree with that overall.
Yeah, my thought was that Jake needed a little bit more on the
fleshing
Keystone,
out.
Yeah, the Keystone Earth side.
Yeah. And then number 3, Idris Elba was an excellent choice for Roland. I enjoyed everything from his voice, his mannerisms, to his empathy that he gained from the last cycle. Superb choice for Roland. Number 4, which is Matthew. I didn't care much for the way Walter could just kill people to stop breathing. But other than that, McConaughey was everything I wanted out of Walter. Fun performance, and I hope he'll be back to reprise his role. I didn't mind his voice either. My life for you, sir. Indeed. And then number 5, Tom Taylor. While he wasn't as witty as Jake in the books, this is a very strong performance by a young actor. The scene where Jake breaks down and cries after his mother's death was powerful and authentic. I actually got teary-eyed watching his pain unfold, and the way that Roland held Jake to comfort him. Great scene, beautifully acted out. It's a pity that Taylor be so much older and taller in the future installments. Though his age isn't really a factor, I really enjoy having a little kid around in the quest for the tower. King writes kids that age so damn well.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, I think that obviously this isn't King as well. So we also, I mean, if they're going to do Jake aging more in the future movies, because we're assuming we're getting that, I don't see that as a huge necessarily strike. Number 6, the film has impacted my view of the books. Number 7, provided that the film was the first of many installments rather than a standalone feature, yes, the wait has paid off. Number 8, absolutely. The film left me wanting much more. I'm looking forward to keeping traveling the path of the beams again. Hopefully Dila. Number 9, Roland of the books. But then again, I'm hard pressed to find a beloved book character that translates better to screen than on the page. That's why the question was.
It's flawed.
Yeah, indeed. Number 10, he says absolutely. I'm forgetting what number 10 was, but
I got it right here. Hold on.
okay. And then number 11, no, but only because I finished the cycle shortly before going into the film. I'm eager to have give the comics a try, though. So he's going to not do a reread, but he's going to go into the comics.
Number 10, did you feel the film fit into the established Dark Tower mythology?
Okay. And he says absolutely for that. Number 12, not the enjoyment of the film per se. Once the Tech Corporation logo appeared, it was the tower and me. It wasn't until the break. We still get breaks during films in Switzerland. Oh, wow.
Oh, really? Even on a 95-minute film?
Even a short movie like that? That's interesting.
Wow.
That I wondered what the hell those critics were on about. However, I must admit that before seeing the film, my anticipation for the film took a bit of a blow after I heard about the negative reviews. IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes have always been my go-to source for when it came to film and TV, a habit that I'll have to kick after how they tore this film to shreds. The number 13, yeah, sure, just keep them. Jake to Roland after Roland bags his drawings unbidden. Yeah, I think that's probably a favorite line, most likely, number 13.
You know, I haven't even thought about that. He mentioned IMDb. I haven't even gone and looked at what it's rated on there. Have you?
I thought I did. I think it was around 6 or 7.
It's a 6.0.
Yeah.
That's not terrible.
No, it's not terrible. It matches the fan review on Rotten Tomato, I think. Number 14, Roland and Jake shooting the gun side by side, accompanied by the beautiful track from the original soundtrack, gave me goosebumps. I enjoyed Roland's grim smile at the end of that scene, too. And Tom Taylor once again showed his capabilities as a good actor. Number 15, the score was good, but mostly unremarkable. There's an incredible epic track called Roland of the Eld, but it got pretty much buried during the Dixie Pig shootout, so you almost couldn't hear it. I thought that this was unfortunate, but at least it was reused when the end credits started rolling. Number 16, absolutely good choices all around by the location scouts. There were even bushels of what could even be devil's weeds growing in the Mohane, which is interesting.
Devil grass.
Yeah, indeed. Number 17, Charlie the Choo Choo in the theme park. Even after my third watching, I have no clue where Peter saw the monstrosities during the propane canister scene in the Dixie Pig. I only saw the glass tank. Help me, Peter.
I'm telling you, it's right there. I can picture it. I close my eyes. I see the shot hitting the tank. I see the water coming out. There's a monstrosity there. And then there's another tank right next to it. There's the shadow that you saw.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, he explained it earlier in the episode, so that should probably give you a pretty good explanation of where to see it, hopefully. I'll definitely keep my eyes open, because I was more looking at the one tank, so that first tank is one I wasn't even paying attention to. So, number 18, for the most part, no, but please let Roland getting infected by the Toadash monsters not be a replacement for him getting his fingers bitten off by the lobstrosities and the infection that follows after. See, Peter, that's for you. He wants to still see Roland's fingers taken off.
No.
Also, I didn't care much... I didn't care the low men being referred to as fake skins. Another copyright issue. I didn't like that they included them hiding their animal heads under human masks, though.
But they do that in the books.
I thought they might skip that due to budgetary issues. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, calling them like the fake skins and stuff, that might be a copyright thing.
Yeah, because the low men actually come from. Well, no, it's Dark Tower. They call them the Lowmen in the Dark Tower. Book 5.
But it doesn't mean
that's not where it started
originally. Yeah,
that's not where it started. Gotcha.
Yeah, same thing with Marvel stuff. Like just because like a character's primarily in comic A, but if they freaking showed up in one obscure thing in comic B to start with, that's where the copyright goes. On the number 19, Nikolai has remembered the face of his father. And I was sad to hear that he's not involved in future Dark Tower projects. His Reddit AMA suggests that he's definitely on board for many projects to come. So what the hell happened? Having said that, I feel that the certain studio people involved in the project may indeed have forgotten the faces of their fathers. Most notably, whoever decided how much footage needed to end up on the cutting room floor in order to get the 95-minute runtime. Possibly in favor of having cinemas cram in as many screenings of the film as possible. It's a shame. Why on earth did they have to get rid of so many cool shots and scenes that were shown in the trailers and on the TV ads? Then he goes on and says, Walter's intense, come on, shout, inviting Roland to shoot him is not in the film. The freestanding door with the number 19 on it is clearly from Jake's dream, is nowhere to be found either. Same goes for Walter's ascending that snowy hill littered with bodies entering the Dogan. Walter wrapping his knuckles on the sigil of the Crimson King as he walks past it in the film. As mentioned, the energy burst, possibly from Algociento crashing into the beams. Several shots of the tower, which show the beams are absent as well. The Dixie Pig crowd chanting, all hail the Crimson King. Jake asking Roland if Walter is the devil. A close-up shot of Jake and Roland crossing the river in heavy rain. The guns having blue glow to them. And he says, I know this wasn't everyone's cup of tea, but I kind of liked it. They must have gotten rid of them on very short notice because it glowed in all of the posters but one. And then he gets close to the end here. He says, then there's the beautiful, the art of the film book to consider. It displays some truly exciting and beautiful set pieces that didn't even make the final cut either. And this makes me suspect that maybe someone interfered with Nikolai's vision. A few things looked like they were improvised on short notice. Most famously, Jake's hair annoyingly going from long to short and back long in a 10-minute time during the movie. Did anyone else notice that? I actually didn't.
I did.
Did you?
It's the big one is when he came out of the chair. His hair length is way different.
Oh, really? Yeah. I you know me well enough to know. I always tell people I'd be the worst person to witness a crime. I'm terrible when it comes to like small details.
I think we made the joke that if this is kind of how it would go. Sir, you witnessed the crime? Yeah. What'd the person look like? Human? That would be Tad's description.
Yeah.
Human?
I think it was a male. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
It might have been a female. Or maybe a man. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just not good at that kind of stuff. And then he goes on here and says, took me out of the movie, especially because it reminded me what scenes were added for the reshoots. Also, I thought that Jack Earl Haley was very underused in the role of Sayer. His fight scene with Roland was clearly stripped down to the bone. During shoot in New York, he was going berserk and throwing car doors at Roland, among other things.
Oh, wow.
And you can actually see a car door lying discarded behind Roland at one point in the film. Sayer gets shot after the bus scene. So in my opinion, there was some rather unsatisfactory editing work done there, and I'm more than eager in seeing the director's cut if there is one. Having said all of that, and summing it up, I'm still very satisfied with the film's final product, under the one condition that the series is continued and concluded in future installments. It's still a good movie as a standalone, but it would work much better as an introduction to a franchise, as Arcel pointed out. As all of us, there's so much more I want out of those books. That is for me, or that's it for me. Long days and pleasant nights. He signs off. So
thank you.
Maybe I've twice the number Sawyer, but yeah, that's I didn't notice the hair thing. That's interesting. I mean, it does not surprise me.
Look at the color. The color is what got me. It almost is just like a.
Is it the hot dog scene?
Yeah, that. So when I really noticed it is when Jake. You know when Jake starts the Creed when he's in the chair. Look at his hair just before he goes into the chair. Pay attention to the length and the color. It's almost like it's a little bit lighter brown. When he comes out of the chair, it almost seems like it's darker, or vice versa. I can't remember which way it goes. Okay. But it seems like before it was darker, then it becomes lighter, or it was lighter, then it becomes darker. But then the hair length also changes when he comes running over to Roland. Because remember, we've heard the rumors that they've changed the ending.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's true. So yeah, it is interesting. I think we'll hopefully get some indication of what happened as we maybe go on a little bit further in the future. And I mean, people don't necessarily talk like super open, right away.
Yeah.
But down the road, usually the story becomes more clear. So I think we'll get maybe some more of the indication. But I fully feel that there was other people involved, and that's probably why Nikolai went from like, I can't wait to be involved and help with the TV series to I'm done with the Dark Tower series. So
Travis, to answer your question, he asked us about what we would like to do if we saw a second movie. What would we like to see? Mentioned Shardik and Blade the Mono. And I already let him know that we did discuss this a little bit earlier, but yeah, we are going to cover more sequel-based stuff in future episodes. Yeah. That's definitely going to be a talking point for us. We're going to give it some thought, develop some stuff.
Just a basic answer, though, is I think Drawing the Three is damn near a straight adaptation.
It's ready. It's ready.
I think the way that book plays out, it would just be a straight, and it might not even be a $175 million movie. Like, it'd be nice to have some money to play with, but it doesn't have to be a huge movie because there's not a ton of special effects in it.
No. Like, you got a firefight at a high-rise in New York.
Yeah.
You have
the doors and, like, the way that those interact would be
special effects. The only thing is if what they do with Susanna. That's where your CGI is going to be spent.
Yeah.
If you get an actress who has legs.
Yeah. If the actor has legs, then you got to CG that out. Now you're talking a lot of money, but I don't know, like that's exponentially cheaper now than it was 10 years ago.
For sure.
So, because CG is a lot cheaper. So, I think that's, and I see that Travis saying drawing for less than 60 million. I don't know if you could do it for less than six. I don't think you could do it for less than what we got for this movie necessarily. But I would say that probably talk like a $90 million budget, something like that, for drawing the three, because you're talking about a bigger cast. You're talking about quite a bit going on. You're talking about a lot of different sets. You're
Yes.
talking set pieces. You're gonna have the desert, or you're gonna have the beach set piece. You're gonna have the airplane,
airport,
the airport,
Jack Andolini's
Jack Andolini's
apartment,
place, the streets of New York again,
streets of New
Between
York, Susanna's department store, her apartment. If you do the flashbacks with that,
any of the stuff,
the train,
the subway,
the
streets again,
the
with
street where she gets the brick. Then also you have everything with Jack Mort, which is again
subway,
an office, subway,
office
gun
building.
store, or maybe not the gun store, but maybe just a pharmacy.
Yeah, the pharmacy
kind of thing.
I mean, yeah. So there's just a lot going on there for sure. So it would be interesting to see what the script would be ultimately. But yeah, I would say it should be fleshed out a little bit too.
Yes.
I would say it'd be a
We
2.5 hour movie.
We need more mythology. That's the big thing that they got to expand on when we do a sequel. Is they have to expand on the mythology.
But do you see them doing
building.
that in part 2 or 3 though? Because once you have the full quartet,
No,
maybe have it more.
I think that you need. I'm not saying all of it, but you need to expand on some of it in book 2. I mean, movie 2, because otherwise we're going to get the same crap that we've gotten for the first one. Well, I want to know more about this world. I want to know more about Roland and stuff like that. I think that Jake and him could definitely have some building, and then have it. The conclusion of Act 1 is where Roland gets poisoned or Jake gets poisoned, and they have to rush to get to a door to get him medicine. And the funny thing is that, dude, that would fit perfectly. Okay, so door number 1, we roll up to it, and
which is going to be the biggest part of the movie.
yeah,
Door 1 is going to be the biggest part regardless, because like the way the book breaks out, there's a lot more in Eddie's door than the other 2 doors combined.
right.
Like, it's a lot more.
But so here's what you do: is you make door 1 where he goes into Eddie. Okay, he's on a plane. He's smuggling drugs. Crap, here we go. Or maybe you take it off a plane and make it a train or something like that. Make it so it's because is it. Do we really believe that there's going to be any drugs getting through TSA and stuff like that? That kind of thing.
Who's to say it's in this modern age?
Oh, that's true. We could still make it back in the 70s and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we do that, and then Roland's like, crap, I got to get some medicine, but
And also
you're a hostage of Jack Andolini from the start. First you get the customs agents and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Then you go right into Jack Andolini's custody, so we never get a chance
even
to
before
get...
customs, you have the pilot of the plane with the stewardesses with the door and in the bathroom.
Uh-huh.
You got all that too. But and then going back to what one of the emailers said, I'm forgetting who, about the Eddie being the one to tell Jake. If you can go, but I guess you already kind of missed that. But if you did, what you could easily do is that Jake's not in the same world as Eddie. So the world that he's in, Eddie still exists, and it may even still be Eddie that typed that and said, "Oh yeah, that's my old neighborhood."
What of it?
Because even if Eddie's an adult in the 90s, that just means he's an older adult that still exists in that world, because that's not the Eddie that gets drawn in
Right.
Jake's when in 2017.
Right.
So that could still easily be him. He just doesn't have his name anywhere in his tag.
That's
So,
true.
Headcanon.
Okay,
That's Eddie.
I'm doing it. That's Eddie that said that. That's just a screen name.
Even if he gets drawn from the
But so-
late 80s, early 90s.
But yeah, so what you do is you make the doors, the first 2 doors, where it's like, I need to get medicine, kind of thing. But then when Roland goes into Susanna, to Detta, she gets caught shoplifting. So he's like, well, I can't get medicine if I'm arrested. So he goes wheeling into the changing room and boom, has to come back. So
Yeah.
door 3 is kind of, he's like, there's only 3 doors. How do you know that there's only 3 doors? I know this.
Yeah.
I have to get medicine or I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And then have it be like bandits or something like that's coming down on the group on the beach, where they need a full gunslinger to survive.
You know what would be interesting? Sorry, would be interesting
Yeah.
now is have Roland get the card reading in his dreams. Have Walter come at him in his dreams to do the card reading, because that's still a part that we haven't talked about. We lost that. So how would Roland know that there's 3 doors?
That's true. Let's do that.
So do
The prologue that you talked about,
yeah, have him in the dreams, and then
he knows that Flag's alive, and he knows that he's out there and he's dangerous.
yeah, and that
You
gives
know?
you some good scenery for Matthew McConaughey if you bring him in for a movie that we're already kind of like struggling with, like how would he have a place in there?
That's a
A
perfect
huge
way to
one,
fit
like
in.
that's gonna be a freaking
Dude, I'm telling you, we're writing the script.
that's gonna be like a 15-minute scene as he explains a bunch of stuff, and maybe even have it like be the freaking Merlin's rainbow. And maybe even where it isn't a dream, maybe he's actually freaking seeing him like he did in the gun store.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you got the card reading, and then like he doesn't explain it to Jake. He doesn't want to freak Jake out. He doesn't want Jake to know that Flag's still alive.
Yeah, and then Jake gets mad at him later on for lying to him.
Yeah.
When he finds out, obviously.
And then when it comes to the whole idea of like, we only have 1 door left. Well, how do you know there's another door? I know there's another door.
I just know.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think they played it out really well. And also, you could also even have, like, rather than have, because in the books, he registers their memories to know, like, oh, it's called a sandwich, not a popkin. You can't really do that in the movie, so make it to where Jake and he both enter the door, and they're dialoguing with each other. And Roland's like, what the hell is a customs? You know, and then Jake has to explain it to him. So you kind of get that duo, because someone in the chat I see you mentioned a little bit ago about like, how do you deal with the fact that Jake's there for drawing the three?
I think that what you do is you keep Jake on the beach with something threatening them. So Jake's having to put his learned gunslinger skills to use by himself, protecting Roland's body.
And he's not ready, especially in his mind.
He's
not
panicked,
ready.
and he's like, "Oh my god, you know, we're all gonna die," kind of thing. And
but maybe even have the door open where he could hear, and he's just, like, yelling in, like, he needs a sandwich, like, you know, like, just kind of play up that it would be somewhat comedic, but you still have the fish out of the water thing. But rather than, like, having, because again, in the books he registers into, like, Eddie's memory banks to see what am I supposed to be saying here, but just have, like, you know, Jake's kind of listening at the same time as, like, he's guarding the body.
Well, they cover that in Jack Moore's in Door 3. The cop freaks out when he sees the Terminator because it's like he took my wallet.
Yeah.
You know, that moment of getting the data, getting the information. It's wallet.
Yeah, indeed.
So.
Indeed. But yeah, I think they could easily do it for sure. And so, Steve saying, sounds like we're scripting movie 2. Yeah. Yeah, it kind of just happened. Wasn't really planned, but it ended up happening.
We talked about this a little bit earlier, Steve. If you go back and listen, we actually talked about what we would do for movie 2, and this came up again. And it's let's write a script. Let's do it.
If nothing else, it could just be a fan script.
Hey, I know a few people that would read it, right, guys, gals, content members.
Yeah, I would love to see. Like I said, though, drawing the 3 could almost be adapted straight. Just very little you needed to change. So much of it is just there. I mean, it looks like Scott in the chat saying Jake can get kidnapped to take him out of it. Roland gets beat up and left on the beach. Wakes up to Martin reading his cards into the doors. I mean, yeah, there's any number of things you could do for sure. But yeah, I think that book, and then like into book 3, I mean, you'd have the full quartet. I mean,
then you have them going to get Jake back from Flag.
Could be, yeah,
and that's their drawing moment. There's getting him back.
Yeah, definitely could be.
We're on to something, sir. I'm telling you. I tell you, we're on to something.
Oh, drawing of the 3, man.
Drawing the 3, screenplay written by Tad and Peter.
But I think this is definitely going to do it for this episode. I will say, for anyone that's especially newer in the chat, we're like 3.5 hours in. But this
is that all?
This episode was more of just like this is an off week, obviously. We want to do one more off week to get caught up with some emails, and we did a really good job. Now we're only sitting on 4 emails, including one that came during the
show,
during the recording of the show. So I think we're going to be in a good position where next week, hopefully, we get a lot of responses from some of the people in Europe that just got the movie.
Yes,
I know Sawyer. His name is still up on the screen. He did get it. He actually got it a week ago or a week before that. Either way, he's had it for a little bit of time now.
Yep.
So it's good to hear from them. So we want to hear from more of you guys from Europe, hear your guys' reaction. So next episode, we're back on track for our normal schedule. So next episode, we'll finish up with the emails that we have and any new ones that come in. We'll keep talking about the movie. And then from there, we'll be back on our bi-weekly scheduling. So let me go ahead and read some of the closing stuff, and we will be done for this episode. A nice long one. I didn't expect this one to be as long, but Peter, as you guys heard, has just wanted more emails. So, but yeah, if you guys are in Europe and have seen the movie now, we would love to hear your guys' reaction. Just because you guys got it later, because for some weird reason, this modern
if they're
day,
even listening to this.
Well, they probably are now. If they've seen the movie, they're probably listening.
I guess
now.
yeah,
so,
that's true.
But we want to hear your guys' thing. I don't want, like, you guys kind of got screwed on the whole release date thing, which still doesn't make sense to me in this modern day. They're all digital files, just released at the same day worldwide.
Yep.
Doesn't matter. But I don't want you guys to be left out of the conversation. Even if some of your thoughts have been already somewhat covered, we would love to hear from you guys, because you guys, I guarantee it, will come at things in a different way than other people have, because you guys are different people with different experiences with Dark Tower, and we definitely value your guys' opinions. Especially
our new listeners. I love that we always hear from new listeners during these shows.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And our old listeners, don't hesitate to write in either. We love all of you guys equally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Eddie fans more than most.
Flag fans, of course. So just to close up shop, if you guys want to subscribe to us, you guys can do that on iTunes. You can also subscribe to us on any of the podcast services. You can also stream us on Stitcher if you're not into the whole downloading thing. I know we've had a few different emailers that have said they find us through Stitcher.
Yep.
You can find the show notes at darktowerpalaver.com. A few of the articles that we talked about today will be on there, including
Kirsty's.
Kirsty's tattoo. Or was it?
Yeah, Kirsty.
Okay. I'm losing my mind now.
You never had
we
it,
had
sir.
we had another picture too, didn't we? Or no?
Just one picture.
Okay, maybe I'm thinking of the last episode. But yeah, we'll have the picture there. We'll have the articles, including the ones that were shared in the emails that maybe I didn't even have a chance to read yet. All that stuff will be there. And at darktowerpalaver.com. And if you guys want to join the Palaver in the future, Peter can tell you the best way to do that.
Best way to reach us is through email, as we've seen in this show and the past shows. Email is darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. We're also on Facebook, where I share things like me flipping off the emoji poster. It's facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. And then if you want to interact mainly with Tad on Twitter, it's at darktowerpod. That's at darktowerpod. And if you have any interest in joining us on a live stream, we're trying to blast out the time and date of those of days in advance. We did a little bit better this time for this show.
Yeah.
Got it out a few days in advance and everything. But if you want to tune in, or if you want to watch along while we listen, it's you can see what pictures and articles and headlines and everything like that Tad puts up for me on the screen here. It's youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. Then you're also able to join in the chat like many have done today. Ryan was there. Scott was there. We had Samuel and Travis and everyone. So thanks for tuning in, guys.
Indeed. And we got some emojis there in the chat. So
Get rid of the emojis, guys. Go!
And it's not only just emojis, but they are saying all hail the Crimson King, which is always, good. Oh, man. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Thank you, Cody. Long live the Tech Corporation.
Oh, man. I can't wait for Christmas when you get the emoji movie.
I'm so going to punch you if you give me the emoji, dude. I swear to God.
Now, if I got you a box for your present that was obviously a DVD shape, would you even trust me to open it, or would you just throw it away?
I'd open it.
Would you? Okay.
And then I would punch you.
Good to know. Good to know. All right, guys. Thank you.
You're
guys.
going to be a jerk and get the emoji movie and something I actually want and put the disc that I want in the emoji movie. And then when I throw it away, you're going to be like, by the way, that was the special edition of the Dark Tower or something.
I would do that.
You're
like
so evil.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us in the chat. I guess for the podcast, of course, we'll sign off and say long days and pleasant nights.
Long days and pleasant nights, folks.
And then for you guys in the chat, just thanks for joining us. It's been fun. Definitely a longer episode. I think one of the longest we've ever had.
That's what I was going for.
But yeah,
honestly, that's why I kept saying one more. Is I wanted to hit the longest one we've ever done.
I think we definitely hit it for sure. So yeah, thank you guys for joining us in the chat. It's definitely fun. I always love having you guys interact with there. I wish I could keep a little bit closer eye on
Samuel,
the chat.
you are evil. No, dude, come on, man.
Oh, I love the spirit of it. It's so good. Oh, don't worry, guys. Many emojis are in Peter's future.
Oh, God. And the worst part is that if you're going to do it... No, I'm not even going to say that because that'll give you an idea. Never mind.
Yeah, just let my mind go free into this all.
You're a horrible person, Tad. Hashtag Tad is terrible.
Post show hashtag now.
Hashtag Tad is terrible.
But yeah, guys, thanks for joining us. You guys are awesome. It's always fun. I'm glad Peter keeps a little bit closer eye on I can because I have to read the emails and stuff. But I try to keep as much as I can on the eye on here because you guys are awesome and always have good discussions. And I think it definitely has added a new dynamic to the show for sure. I mean, we did.
It's a lot of fun too, because especially if I think it was Travis that came right out of the show today. They're able to input stuff that instantly instead of us, reacting 2 weeks later to it when they have to email it. It's so nice.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
And thank you, Travis. He said he wouldn't do that to me. See, there's one good guy here.
Oh man, I'll and then see again. It's your daughter. That's the key. Getting your daughter some like a giant stuffed emoji or something.
She's actually not allowed to have any more stuffed animals. She has too many.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time, which is next week. So join us next week. We'll be back
Friday probably
talking some movie reactions, and we will from there we'll be back on our normal schedule. So back to every other week. Hopefully this has been not too overwhelming to have your feeds blowing up with so much Dark Tower palaver. But until then, until next week, for all you guys in the chat, long days and pleasant nights.
Long days and pleasant nights, folks.